title last week. They have a 12-3 record, the home field throughout the playoffs, but they would dearly love to close out their season by reversing an early season 31-7 loss to Minnesota. And for head coach Jerry Burns, whose Vikings have clinched a wild card spot in the playoffs, tonight's scenario is a simple one. A win tonight, and next week's playoff game with the Rams is right here, indoors at home with a wildly partisan crowd. A loss tonight, and the Christmas holiday becomes a road show against the red-hot Rams in Anaheim, California. Tonight, the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings on ABC's Monday Night.
Miller Lite, official sponsor of the Miller Lite NFL Lineman of the Year Award. By Pontiac, we build excitement. By Braun Electric Shavers, it is through superior design that superior performance can be achieved. And by Epson America. When you've got an Epson, you've got a lot of company.
The Metrodome in Minneapolis. It'll be wild. It'll be rocking tonight. The Chicago Bears are in town. The Chicago Bears have clinched the division of the Central Division of the NFC, and the Minnesota Vikings, of course, have a wild card. Hello again, everyone. We're delighted you are with us for this, our final Monday night telecast of the regular 1988 season, and it should be a good football game. Quite frankly, we thought it would mean a lot more. A little over a week ago, we thought it would be a battle for the divisional title. As one of my former colleagues might say, that did not eventuate. Something called Green Bay got in the way of the Minnesota Vikings, but there is a lot of significance to tonight's game. For the Minnesota Vikings, if you're a player, well, you've got to go out there and play your heart out tonight, because if you lose, you're on your way to Arizona on Wednesday to the warm climate, and then you'll spend your Christmas in Anaheim, California, and you'll play the wild card game against the Rams on a natural surface, and the Vikings play better on an artificial surface. We can assure you of that. And meanwhile, if you're a Chicago Bear, if you can be a trouble team at 12-3, and that's hard to imagine, this is a trouble team. There is internal conflict. There are a lot of injuries involved with this football team. We've talked about them in the past, but it is once again, how would you say, almost like the classic soap opera has developed once again. But somehow, Al, they always seem to overcome this.
Frank, we'll detail it as we move along tonight, but nothing seems to derail this team. It's time to pay a lot of tribute to the Chicago Bears, because in this age of parity, this team has now won 5 consecutive Central Division championships. While everybody else rebuilds and retool, they're like a plane that refuels on the fly. Walter Payton retires. Gary Fensick retires. Wilbur Marshall goes to Washington. You know the list of injuries with Otis Wilson. McMahon plays half the year. The head coach has a heart attack in the middle of the season. But it's time for Mike Ditka and for personnel director Bill Tobin to take a bow, because they have really built something very special in Chicago. The Bears come in tonight with the best record in the NFL. Tonight's game, win or lose, basically means nothing to Chicago, but obviously, Dan, a whole lot to Minnesota. I think the Viking theme song tonight should be Home for the Holidays.
Or Home Sweet Dome, however you want to look at it, Alan. You're exactly right, because Frank set it out for you at the very beginning of the show that the win or lose tonight, the Vikings, it matters whether they're home or away. Now, what does that really mean? Let's talk about when dome teams play outdoor teams, which is what we have with the Vikings and the Rams. When an outdoor team has to play a playoff game inside, they've never won. The dome team has won all 5 games. When they've had to play outside, where the dome team is on the road, the dome team has only won 5 of 18 games. That's why there is a sense of urgency for the Minnesota Vikings tonight. And one last thing. The Vikings believe they're going to meet the Bears again in the playoffs. It would have to be the NFC Championship game, and if they do, they want Chicago to remember tonight's game.
And if they beat Chicago tonight, it will have meant 3 victories this season, granted 1 in preseason. But these two teams met in Sweden in the first game of the preseason schedule. Minnesota won there. Minnesota won in Chicago in October, and Minnesota, hopeful of a victory tonight, has just won the toss. And so Jerry Burns' team will receive the opening kickoff. Jerry Burns, and many of you know his story, a longtime assistant coach here, and before that at Green Bay, a man who has 6 Super Bowl rings, 2 years as an assistant under Vince Lombardi, 4 years as an assistant here under Bud Grant. And then he got the head job at the age of 59 3 years ago. Led them into the playoffs last season, and the Vikings were just 1 game away from the Super Bowl. They were beaten at RFK by the Redskins. And this year they'll have to go that same route if they lose tonight. Go on the road for 3 to try to get to Miami. So the Metrodome sold out. The Vikings have sold out every game this season. So every game on their schedule, home and road, has been televised to the folks in the Twin Cities and around the state of Minnesota. Dropping back deep is Darrell Harris to receive the kick, and Kevin Butler to kick off for the Chicago Bears. And again, the only thing remaining, the only missing puzzle part in the playoff picture, where will next Monday's game be played? Anaheim or Minneapolis? Final game of the regular season underway. Harris at the 4-yard line. And he's taken down at the 21-yard line. He is dropped there by the rookie linebacker Dante Jones, number 53. And so now Wade Wilson, clearly number one in the season that began with a quarterback controversy. Would it be Wilson or Tommy Kramer? It's been Wilson since early in the year. And the rest of the offense, Nelson with Anderson, the running backs. Rice and Anderson bring the plays in. You saw the wideouts led by Anthony Carter. Zimmerman will be going to the Pro Bowl, the left tackle, number 65. And Randall McDaniel next to him, the rookie out of Arizona State, their number 1 draft pick. Wilson goes to the air on first down, has a lot of time, and then gets back up to the 22-yard line. Everyone covered, and then Wade decides to take off, and he is stopped there by Sean Smith, who is taking the spot of the injured Richard Dent. Dent hurt 3 weeks ago, and chances are he will not be back unless the Bears get as far as the Super Bowl, and they say that's still a possibility that he could return then. Harris, McMichael, Hampton, and Smith, the front four. Singletary, the man in the middle, he'll be going to the Pro Bowl. And the secondary, Dewerson, going to the Pro Bowl as an alternate. 2nd and 10 from the 22-yard line as Wilson is protected well again, and the pass is incomplete off the fingertips of Steve Jordan. 3rd down.
Al, you've already alluded to the Pro Bowl as to some of the players who are going, 2 who are not going. And many of the Bears, even though they're not too noisy about it, feel that Steve McMichael and Dan Hampton, their 2 fine interior defensive linemen, both should have been there. McMichael having the great year with 11.5 sacks, but they have not been selected to the Pro Bowl. As a matter of fact, the Bears at 12-3 only have 4, and the Vikings have 9 on the way to Hawaii.
From the shotgun now on 3rd and 10 at the 22-yard line. Opening series. Safety blitz, and the pass is complete to Leo Lewis, but he's well shy of the first down. Stopped by David Tate. Dave Dewerson forcing the issue, blitzing from his safety spot, and Minnesota has to kick.
I think we see something right off the bat that Wade Wilson told us last night, and that is that the Vikings aren't going to waste a great deal of time trying to run the football down the throat of the Chicago Bears. 3 plays, 3 passes, and I think we should look for that all night long out of Minnesota. They don't have a great deal of confidence in their ability to run the ball and run the ball successfully against the Bears.
Another thing. Line by Dennis McKinnon, and he's tackled immediately by Reggie Rutland. 50-yard kick. And so Mike Tomczak, and this is a story we'll develop. He comes back. He separated his left non-throwing shoulder 3 weeks ago. Missed the Ram game, missed the Detroit game. Anderson and Suey, the running backs. McKinnon and Gentry outside. James Thornton, the rookie, starts at tight end. And the guys up front. Hilgenberg is a Pro Bowl starter, the center. The noisy dome. Chicago at the 27-yard line. And Tomczak throws to the 30, complete to Dennis McKinnon, who picks up about 3. He is stopped there by Scott Studwell, another Pro Bowler, one of the 9 for Minnesota. He's a backup inside linebacker in Honolulu. And we'll take a look at that Minnesota defense, tops in the league. Baker and Mays are on the left side, but the guys to watch, Millard and Dolman on the right side. The linebackers, Howard, Studwell, Solomon, quietly having an excellent year. He's been lost in the shuffle. Lee and Browner are Pro Bowl starters in the secondary. 2nd and 7. Anderson runs into his own man, runs into Bortz, And Scott Studwell gets credit for the tackle. Third down.
And Mark Bortz appears to get up limping as he heads over to the sideline. He's not going to return to the Bear huddle. The left guard of the Chicago Bears out of Iowa, out of the game after only a couple of plays. And this is one of the things that's really been bothering the Bears, if you can be bothered with their record, has been their offensive line. They've had people hurt. Jim Covert missed most of the year at left tackle. Kurt Becker comes into the game now for Bortz, and Keith Van Horn, normally their right tackle, is out of the game tonight as well.
4 wide receivers from the shotgun on 3rd and 7. Tom Zach throws incomplete. Intended for Morris. He was covered anyway by Isaac Holt, who would have made the tackle. They would have been short of the first down, and so both teams have to kick after failing to pick up a first down. And they work on Mark Bortz.
Well, it's been that kind of year for the Chicago Bears at the very outset. Covert was injured. Dan mentioned they have had a makeshift offensive line all year long, and you don't feel comfortable going into the playoffs like that.
No, but where they've been strong, Frank, is in the middle with Bortz, Hilgenberg, and Thayer. At least they've been solid there.
Wagner's kick is a line drive, and Leo Lewis fielding on the run from the 34 into Bear territory. One man to beat. And he stopped at the 3. Ron Rivera saved the touchdown.
Great effort by Rivera, but Lewis on a short kick, the kind you take in stride. Those are the kind you run back. Lewis stepped up about 8 or 10 yards, took it in stride, did not even look for a picket line, turned on the speed here, and Rivera saves the touchdown down inside the 5-yard line.
Well, if anyone wondered about the speed of Ron Rivera, that is a sensational job of grabbing Lewis by behind. And you talk about a fingertip tackle. That's all Rivera got on the shoulder pad of Leo Lewis. He did not have the angle, folks. Leo Lewis had the angle. Let's see if it pays off for Chicago.
64-yard run back. 1st and goal from the 3, and Wade Wilson will try to throw it into the end zone, and instead throws it away. Everybody was covered, and you saw 3 white shirts around there, and Al Harris forcing the issue. 2nd and goal.
When I say let's see if it pays off for Chicago, we've all seen numerous times where someone has made a great effort like that, kept someone from getting into the end zone, and then their defensive team seems to rise to the occasion and not let them into the, let them cross the goal line. Seen it a number of times already this year, and Vince Tobin's crew has done it repeatedly.
And if they have to settle for 3, you can credit 4 points to Ron Rivera, just like that.
2nd and goal at the 3. No score, early 1st quarter. Wilson again. Touchdown, Steve Jordan.
Jordan almost like a wide receiver and got the Bears in a man-for-man situation. Came from the left side, angled out behind the wingback, and he was wide open. A little bit of confusion on the part of the Chicago Bears defense. They were moving around at this point. Wilson looks at Jordan all the way, did not take his eyes off him, and Jordan is there. Jordan also on the way to the Pro Bowl. 55 receptions for the tight end of the Vikings.
Chuck Nelson for the point after, with Bucky Scribner holding. And a 64-yard punt return by Leo Lewis sets it up. Jordan makes his 55th catch of the season, his 5th touchdown reception.
And I think you hit it, Dan. They are not going to fool around with the running game. The Vikings are here to throw the football tonight.
Take a 7-0 lead, and of course the Los Angeles Rams are watching tonight with some interest, trying to figure out whether they'll be home next Monday or here.
They were awesome last night against the 49ers. 7 sacks early in the 2nd quarter. They're on a 3-game roll, and they're going to be tough whether they play here or out there.
Chuck Nelson to kick off. Thomas Sanders and Dennis Gentry are both back to receive for the Bears. And out of bounds. And they have the option of taking breaking it up at the 35-yard line. Officiating crew tonight led by Dan Deerdorf's favorite official, Ben Dreith.
Smiling Ben Dreith. He's just intense, I guess. Misunderstood. One thing about it, Ben never gave you the look like he was inviting you to come over and ask him how everyone was doing at home.
I think it was interesting. He sent you up a picture, Dan, to autograph. A smiling Ben Dreith.
Well, we talked earlier in the season about Ben and how he didn't really spend his life smiling, and you're right, it was kind of cute.
I did that. I wouldn't smile either.
I wouldn't do it.
First down, Chicago from the 35-yard line. Tomczak to the air, and it's dropped by Morris right in his hands. Carl Lee was covering on the play. Morris, last year, a nice surprise, picked high in the draft, and it appeared that he would have a big year in 1988. He got off to a great start, but of late he's been seldomly used.
If you're the Chicago Bears, the two guys you have to worry about are Chris Dolman and Keith Millard, 56 and 75, and that's one way to do it. The good old triple team. Jay Hilgenberg, the center, just automatically works towards the left and gets into Millard's face, and look for a 3-on-2 all night long in that situation.
Mark Bortz, by the way, is back in there. This is Anderson on a draw, going nowhere. Stopped by Scott Studwell. There was a lot of talk in Chicago this week because Anderson has been fumbling of late, that Thomas Sanders would start. Ditka said no, and it's Anderson in there tonight again.
Another Pro Bowl player right here, Scott Studwell. 12 years he's been working the middle for the Minnesota Vikings, and he does his job just floating behind the line. I don't know why the Bears that time tried to run to the overloaded side. They tried to run that delay into the three lineman side of the Minnesota defense.
Third and 10 from the 35-yard line. They rush 4, and Tomczak throws incomplete. He threw it behind Glenn Kozlowski, the intended receiver. Isaac Holt, the nickelback, covering on the play, and Chicago is forced to kick again as Tomczak comes off shaking his head.
This man-to-man coverage, you can see at top of your screen, and Holt, fine coverage, reading the eyes, comes back to Kozlowski, and it would have had to have been the perfect pass to get in there. Tomczak, as he shook his head going off the field, felt he should have had it in there.
Last time Wagner kicked, his 36-yard punt was brought back 64 yards by Leo Lewis. This kick is a higher and a deeper kick. Lewis at the 19-yard line tries to cut it back and can bring it only to the 25, where he's stopped by Dante Jones. 46-yard kick and a 6-yard return. 10:38 to go, first quarter. Minnesota Vikings 11 years ago. No running back has ever had a greater day. And we're back at the Metrodome in Minneapolis. It's always comfortable inside and quite pleasant outside as well. About 40 degrees in the Twin Cities today. Minnesota has it at the 25. They lead 7-0 as Wade Wilson hands off to Darren Nelson. And a 4-yard pickup out to the 29-yard line. It'll be second down and 6. And we invite you to spend part of Christmas Day with us. The Kelly Tire Blue-Gray All-Star Football Classic from Montgomery coming your way on Christmas Day this Sunday at noon Eastern time. And then from Honolulu, the Eagle Aloha Bowl, Washington State against Houston. Tim Rosenbach of Washington State, who has kind of been lost in the shuffle because Aikman and Pete got all the publicity out west, but he's a good one. You'll see him on Sunday. Second and 6 from the 29-yard line. Darren Nelson again, and Sean Smith provides the greeting party.
Sean Smith, a player who really stepping into almost an impossible situation. Richard Dent was such a colossal part of the Bear defense, and it's almost a situation where no matter how well Smith plays, people are always going to talk about how the Bears come playoff time are going to miss the outside pass rush of Richard Dent. They're two completely different players, but one thing Smith will give them is even more help on the running game. Just what the Bears need.
They actually use 2 players. They bring in Troy Johnson.
On 3rd and 7, they set up the screen, and the catch is made by Allen Rice, and he's tackled short of the first down. He only got to the 34, and Mike Singletary, by tackling him there, saves a first down.
When you lose a dent, you lose an awful lot. They bring in Sean Smith for the potential running down, and then they take him out, bring in Troy Johnson for the pass rush. So in effect, Dent actually represents 2 ball players on the field.
Well, Richard Dent has been saying that he'll be back if the Bears should make it all the way to the Super Bowl, but no one in the Chicago organization, either their training staff or their medical staff, is being nearly that optimistic.
And the Super Bowl, keep in mind, is still almost 5 weeks away. Scribner to kick, his second kick, and he angles it away from McKinnon and out of bounds at the 28-yard line. So from there, will the Bears begin their 3rd drive of the night? 8:22 to go in the first period, with the Vikings on top, 7-0. Where to begin? So many stories to be told tonight. Jim McMahon, there he is in uniform, has not played since October, could play tonight. But Tomczak gets the start, and with a good performance tonight, Tomczak would get to start in the playoffs as well. At the 28-yard line, first down Chicago. Anderson carries for a gain of about 6. It's very simple. I asked Mike Ditka last night. I said, if Tomczak plays well tonight, are you going to end all of the speculation after the game and say that he will start in the playoffs? And Mike said yes.
And there was no hesitation whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, we asked Mike Tomczak what Jim thinks about that. And he said, well, you'd have to ask him. You get the impression that, well, that things are a little tense, as well they should be. You've got 2 competitors fighting for one job. But clearly, make no mistake, the job right now is Mike Tomczak's to keep if he plays well.
2nd down and 5. And big number 73, a former Deerdorf teammate, Stafford Mays, came across.
Stafford, who did play in St. Louis, the majority of his career was here in Minnesota before released and then re-signed.
Encroachment on a defense. That's a 5-yard penalty, and that's 2nd down.
You see, that's what the players always went wild about, Ben, because he always talked about you like he didn't like you. Now, I know that that's not the case, but that stern countenance of old Ben there, he just, here's Stafford.
He made encroachment sound like a felony.
He did. I thought they were going to come and take him away. The Vikings a little banged up on the defensive line. Doug Martin is out. He won't be back for the balance of the playoffs. They're very talented defensive end. Henry Thomas not even suited up tonight. Their starting defensive tackle, and Tim Newton is hobbled a bit as well. So things are not all well up front for the Vikes here tonight.
2nd and inches now after the penalty at the 38-yard line. Anderson, and he has a first down to the 41. I think, guys, the interesting thing tonight is going to be if Tomczak doesn't play well, does Ditka then think to himself, well, now do I see if I can get McMahon ready for the playoffs, or does he stay with Tomczak all the way tonight?
It's pretty interesting, and the problem between the 2 quarterbacks has erupted throughout the ball club. One of the leaders of this team, Dan Hampton, was openly critical on the air radio show this past week of Jim McMahon. And McMahon, of course, fired a salvo back at Hampton, so there's a lot of bickering going on here.
First down, that's Chicago's first down at the 42-yard line. Tomczak pump faking and then throwing it through Anderson's hands, and a marker is down as Tomczak goes down. And remember, Tomczak's coming back after that separated left shoulder.
Oh, this is going to be a roughing the passer. There it is.
Mays and Baker both coming in. Last week, a roughing the passer penalty on Millard cost them a touchdown.
Quarterback, number 60.
Well, we're going to see Al Baker here, number 60, take at least 2 and maybe 3 steps before he puts the hammer on Mike Tomczak. Now let's see when Tomczak throws the ball.
He had faked this right before.
There's the throw. 1, 2, and look where the helmet goes. Right in the chin of Mike Tomczak. You cannot strike a blow to the head, either with your arms or with the top of your helmet. Now, granted, the quarterback loses some of his protection when he scrambles out of the pocket, but it's that shot to the head. That is going to get a flag every time, Al.
Wasn't the late hit. It was a blow to the head. No question.
And Baker has already served the 1-game suspension this season. At the 44-yard line, Tomczak to Anderson, and he tries to cut back. He loses his footing, and down he goes after a gain of 4, and another flag goes down.
Ooh, Anderson saw something good back inside. He could have taken it outside also. Ordinarily, he would have made that cut.
Ben Dreith, our referee from Central Casting.
James Thornton, the tight end of the Bears, one of the guys involved.
Personal foul, number 47. That's 15, and that's a first down.
Joey Browner, another Pro Bowler.
And it was Browner who was locked up with James Thornton. Thornton came in to make a block on the run. Let's take a look. There's Thornton, number 80. Now watch, he goes after Browner. Now keep in mind, he's not sure. Ooh, and it's actually Thornton that throws a right cross and hits Browner. Well, I didn't see Joey Browner hit Thornton at all. And Thornton, with the of the massive arms, looked like he got a pretty good right cross right on the chin of Joey Browner. And yet Browner's the guy that gets flagged for 15.
As is often the case. 25-yard line, first down. All the time in the world for Tomczak. He hits Anderson, and Anderson picks up about 9, getting to the 17-yard line. Browner and Studwell converge on the tackle with under 6 minutes to go in the quarter.
Extra little dimension that Tomczak will give you. Good scrambler out of the pocket. He's got the strong arm. He was trying to go deep, kind of floated out of the pocket, and was able to get the ball to Anderson on the very safe pass that keeps the drive alive.
One thing, guys, here in the early going, I think some people questioned, would the Chicago Bears really be into this game tonight? I mean, they really don't have anything to gain at all. They're the division champions. They'll be at home for the playoffs. I think they're answering some here early. Their intensity level seems to be up a couple notches.
2nd and 1 from the 17. And Suey carries for a first down as he takes it inside the 15, and he is stopped there by Chris Dolman.
I think you touched on it earlier, Dan, and you mentioned it too, Al, that if the Bears lose tonight, it will be the 3rd time around from them. They lost 31-7 in Chicago the last time around. They don't want to lose tonight and then have the potential of playing the Vikings in the NFC Championship, having lost 3 games, counting that preseason game.
If these two teams meet, it would have to be in the NFC Championship game. They would not meet in the divisional playoffs because they're in the same division. Big hole for Anderson, but it closes in a hurry as he reaches the 10, and he's knocked back by Joey Browner after a gain of about 4. And Browner is hurt for the moment, just shaken up and holding his shoulder.
Having that arm, it looks like it's been well padded, but grimacing to the sidelines. And this is a Pro Bowler, a strong safety for the Vikings, and he appears to be injured.
A lot of people consistently talk about Ronnie Lott being the hardest hitting safety in the National Football League. If he is, it's closely contested with Joey Browner.
Darrell Fullington, who is a rookie, replaces Browner at 2nd down and 5. And mistiming on the handoff and a fumble at the 11. Minnesota football. Suey dropped it on the mistimed handoff, and Jesse Solomon recovers. And those are touchdown towels in the great tradition of the Homer Hanky.
Oh, and the old Mike Ditka would have been dancing all over the football field. He just sits there, but this is a collision right here between Suey. Tomczak late getting it there, tried to hand off with both hands. Suey never really had an opportunity.
Well, for some reason, the Bears never even blocked Keith Millard. Watch Millard. Watch to the left side of your screen, to the right side rather. Number 57, Tom Thayer is going to pull, and nobody's going to block Millard. Look at Millard come in there. If he'd have kept coming, he could have taken the handoff. Suey sees him, loses concentration on the football, and doesn't put it away. A blown play from the very beginning, at least on the offensive line.
And Wade Wilson right to the air on first down on a roll from the 12. And he hits the tight end, Steve Jordan. And Jordan is out of bounds at the 21-yard line after a gain of 9. Jordan, who caught 7 last week at Green Bay.
Classic middle linebacker, Singletary, reading the offensive set, sprinting to the sidelines, and covering about 35 yards to get there and take Jordan out of bounds. But what concentration. We've shown you the eyes of Singletary throughout the season and the other games we have covered the Bears, but no one concentrates like Singletary on his way to another Pro Bowl, the real leader of this defense in every way.
Let's see what the Vikings do now with what amounts to this free play on 2nd and 1 from the 21-yard line. And it's a toss to Allen Rice, who turns the corner and goes out of bounds at the 29-yard line.
How about that lead block by Darren Nelson? Darren Nelson only 5 feet 9 inches, and what a lead block. Put Rice around the corner. There's a good look at Nelson right there. Let's see if we can get a good look at the lead block on Ron Rivera right there. Look at him put Rivera on the ground, and Allen Rice, the beneficiary of that. And you really wouldn't think of Darren Nelson at 5'9", 184 pounds as being a devastating lead blocker, but it doesn't get any better than that.
From the 30, first down, 3:25 to go in the quarter, 7-0 Minnesota. Wilson runs the option play and runs it rather well for 15 yards.
Well, I guess it's a luxury you have when you have 2 good quarterbacks. Wade Wilson running the option. We really have seen it throughout the league this year. Wilson down the line playing the option to pitch or hang on to the football, breaks it back inside. Looks like he's been doing it throughout his career.
Well, it really does get a chance to exploit one of the things that Wade Wilson does really well, and that's run the football. But I'll tell you what else it does. That just sends John Robinson and his coaching staff into an extra half hour of meetings this week trying to work up a defense to go against the option.
From the 45-yard line, Wilson throws to Rice. Nice move to escape a tackle, and he nearly gets a first down. He picks up 9. Maurice Douglas runs him out of bounds. Pickup of 9. It'll be 2nd and 1 with 2:32 to play in the quarter. Well, a unique primetime special with Brian Boitano and Katarina Witt skating together as you've never seen before. Canvas of Ice coming up next only on the West Coast. Of course, those of you in the Eastern and the Central and Mountain time zones, you've already seen it.
I'll tell you, it is a delight. We saw a little bit of it before the teams came out on the field, and we were watching from up here. 2 great champions, 2 great talents.
2nd and 1, another free play. The last time they ran a sweep, and this time they'll take advantage of it. And they pick up a first down as Alfred Anderson, one of their alternating, rotating fullbacks. He and Rice come in with the plays, and Mike Singletary makes the tackle. First down.
Yeah, thus far, they've shut off Anthony Carter and Hassan Jones, the 2 wide receivers who are the dangerous receivers for the Vikings, but Wade Wilson has picked up the coverage on them and quickly gone to Steve Jordan for key plays and also to his backs coming out of the backfield. Good read on the part of Wade Wilson.
Vikings going up against the league's number 2 defense in Chicago. Of course, the Minnesota defense is number 1. From the 33-yard line, Wilson going for it all and too far. Intended for Carter, covered well by Vesti Jackson.
Covered magnificently by Vesti Jackson. If you're the cornerback, you're going to give that guy the outside, but what you have to do is remain close. You can't allow a separation. Watch Jackson and how he never gets more than a foot away from Anthony Carter. He doesn't give Carter any room at all to maneuver back to the football, to free his arms, to extend towards the football. Just absolutely perfect coverage by Vesti Jackson.
That could be in the handbook to defensive back coverage.
And Jackson, one of those, quietly having a very good season. 2nd and 10 from the 34-yard line. And everybody was on the same page but Wilson and Loudermilk.
False start on the offense. About 3 guys moving.
Well, Ben's growing up.
About 3 guys are moving. Well, Kirk Loudermilk, the center, was not one of the 3 guys moving. You can take a look. The whole backfield's in motion. Tight end Steve Jordan, right tackle Tim Irwin. Everybody was kind of anticipating the snap of the ball, and Kirk Loudermilk just kind of passed on it. But not as bad as Ben passed on it.
2nd down and 15 from the 38-yard line. And Wilson throws it nearly intercepted by Maurice Douglas, and a flag is down to the 22-yard line. Hassan Jones, the intended receiver.
Well, Douglas just flattens Hassan Jones.
He was playing the football, but you can't play it right through the man and knock him to the deck.
Well, I look at Douglas getting some support from his teammates, but we'll get a look at it here.
Pass interference number 37. That's a 1st down.
I don't think we need to discuss that very much. Blatant pass interference by Maurice Douglas, who I can't tell you what he must have been thinking, but he was playing the ball. Unfortunately, it was right through Hassan Jones.
Well, manslaughter for that.
1st down. Vikings, 20-yard line. They lead 7-0. Late 1st quarter. Anderson to the outside, and Harris slowed him up, and then Morrissey comes in to finish him off at the 17-yard line.
Boy, now they're asking an awful lot of Darren Nelson. They're asking him to block Al Harris, an outside linebacker, and I'm not so sure that Al, a defensive end / linebacker, is really quite the guy to the Vikings try to isolate on Darren Nelson. Only about 100-pound weight advantage going the way of number 90 here.
Nelson listed at 5'9", 184, and Harris 6'5", 270. 2nd and 6. Wilson throwing underneath to Jones, and he takes it to the 1-yard line.
And a good read by Wade Wilson. He looked quickly to his Pro Bowl tight end Steve Jordan. He was covered well, and then opening underneath was Hassan Jones.
Watch how far Hassan Jones goes. He comes all the way over here, around, back underneath where he gets the football. And this movement confuses the Chicago Bears. Look at them change their coverage. Now the break back to the inside underneath the zone. And Wilson, buying himself a little extra time, finds the guy he was looking for all along.
And that will end the 1st quarter. It'll be 1st and goal when we start the 2nd period. 7-0 Minnesota will return to the Metrodome in Minneapolis after this message and a word from your local station. Minneapolis, Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Beardorf. 7-0 Vikings, 1st and goal. Vikings at the Chicago 1 as we start the 2nd quarter. And they come up short as Alan Rice, the ball carrier, picks up about a half a yard. Steve McMichael in on the tackle. 2nd down and goal. Coming into the game, Chicago with a number 2 defense. That's in terms of yardage allowed, but they were number 1 in the league in fewest points allowed. Only 187 in 15 weeks. On the verge of giving up 14 here.
No way there.
Nope. Wilson on a sneak, and that doesn't net it, so it's 3rd down and goal.
Vikings were next best at giving up points at 206. 2 tough defensive teams, and this is a tough coach right here. He's been around, he's seen it all. Tutored under Vince Lombardi back in 66 and 67. Was here through the Bud Grant era. Was overlooked when they hired Les Steckel. They brought Grant back for a year, and they finally hired him 3 years ago and had him in the playoffs a year ago and got him there again this year.
3rd and goal, reminiscent last year. Remember, Chicago made a tremendous goal line stand and Minnesota lost the game. But not this time. They get it in. Alfred Anderson.
And you notice how the Vikings, when they're down on the goal line, make no bones about it. They're going to go left. They'd like to work behind Gary Zimmerman, their all-pro left tackle, and their #1 draft choice, Randall McDaniel, at left guard. That's exactly where they go.
Some offensive talent they took out of the USFL. Gary Zimmerman and Anthony Carter. And you're exactly right, over the left side. Big number 65, all 290 pounds of him, blowing him out of there.
And with the underrated and up-and-coming center Loudermilk, it makes for a nice threesome on the offensive line for Minnesota, as Nelson's extra point is perfect. And the Vikings go 88 yards in a dozen plays, and with 13:45 to go in the half, Minnesota leads the Bears 14-0. On top, and so the Bears have already yielded more points tonight than they have on average in any game this season. And with Sanders and Gentry back to receive for Chicago, the question pops into my mind anyway: if Chicago doesn't get going here in the first half, will we eventually see McMahon? 5-yard line, Dennis Gentry. To the 36, Joey Browner makes the tackle. Well, earlier this week you may have read about Ditka's remarks that they should turn this place into an armory and have livestock roaming here. So they've accommodated Big Mike.
Mike Lynn, the general manager of the Vikings, is always more than willing to go along with Mike Ditka's comments. That's not bad.
What did he call it last year? A roller rink.
And what did the cheerleaders do? They wore those roller blades. They were all decked out in them again tonight as well. So Ditka is the source of a lot of giggles up here in Minneapolis.
First down from the 35-yard line. Bears down by 14 as Tomczak throws errantly for Thomas Sanders. And it'll be 2nd and 10. They have Sanders and Muster now in the game, spelling Anderson and Suey, as they are prone to do about every third series.
Ditka was so positive last night about Tomczak. We don't know whether we'll see Harbaugh or even McMahon ready to play again. But we asked Dick to tell us about Tomczak, what he really liked about him. The first thing he said, well, he hasn't let me get to him. And that's a pretty high criteria as far as Dick is concerned. Of course, he's calmed down considerably with the heart problem. But he also said he likes his arm. He likes his strong arm. And the fact that he's hung in there through all kinds of adversity.
He is 2 for 6, is Tomczak, for 12 yards. And he is now 3 for 7, but it's fumbled. No, it's not even caught, they say. It's incomplete. Sanders dropping it as he's hit by Browner. I thought he had control of it, and then it went out of bounds, but it's ruled an incomplete pass.
Well, something tells me we'll take a look at it. From behind. Remember, you must have control of the football.
And your feet down.
And 2 feet down.
He had control up on the shoulder.
Boy, that's extremely close. He took a couple of steps with the football, you know, and a lot of it now is what's the definition of control of the football. You know, more and more guys, we're seeing it where they want to see you bring it down and put it away. Than keeping it up there on a shoulder pad, and we're going to have it looked at.
Well, we're going to have a timeout is what Tomczak wants here.
I wonder.
Well, he takes a timeout as he looked over the defense on 3rd and 10, and we've got 13:23 to go in the first half. It's been all Minnesota.
IBM presents You Make the Call. Randy Wright of the Packers hands off to Gary Ellis, who switches hands on the ball in order to straight arm a Viking defender with an open left hand to the face mask. Now you make the call. Is this a legal action by Ellis? It's legal for a ball carrier to straight arm an opponent with his open hand, even if that open hand contacts the face mask.
1-0 and went on to the Super Bowl where they lost to Kansas City. Well, kind of like the old days right now, 31-0 19 years ago and 14-0 tonight at the 35-yard line. It's 3rd and 10. After the timeout, Tomczak under pressure and nobody even close.
Tomczak had no choice. Safety blitz was on. He did not have enough men to pick up, and he just turned it loose to avoid the sack. Again, Bears looking sloppy in the pickup, and Tomczyk just had to throw it away. You'll see 47, Joey Browner, will come into the screen. There he is, the safety. And he was getting help also from Jesse Solomon, sort of the overlooked linebacker for these Vikings, having a superb year.
Ditka and Landry with Tomczyk.
A little counseling there.
And McMahon also joining the conversation as Wagner sets up at the 20 to accept the snap. And he gets away a wobbly and a short kick toward the near sideline. And out of bounds it goes at the 27 with 13:10 to play in the first half. 38-yard kick for Wagner.
Quick look at Harbaugh and Ditka on the sidelines. Harbaugh coming off a couple of good games for the Bears. That must have been a tough thing for him to swallow with Tomczyk coming back. I guess he knew all along that he would, however, give way to Tomczyk.
Well, I think for Jim Harbaugh it was quite a recovery. Played poorly in the Monday night game that we had out in L.A., but then really rebounded last week and came through with a win over Detroit.
26-yard line. The catch is made by Anthony Carter, and he goes out of bounds after a gain of about 5. Second down. Reminder coming up tomorrow, Tuesday night on ABC. Good lineup. Tony Danza, of course, heading the cast, and Who's the Boss, followed by Roseanne, the season's biggest new hit. And Moonlighting and 30-something. A strong lineup on Tuesday night here on ABC. 2nd and 5 at the 32-yard line. Wilson, who is 8 for 11, is now 9 for 12, and the catch is made by Hassan Jones at the 50-yard line. He's tackled by Mike Richardson.
That's a beautiful grab, and also excellent protection for Wade Wilson. That looked like it was overthrown all the way, and Hassan goes high in the air and comes down with it.
There's part of the reason that Wade Wilson is a 62% completion quarterback. When you had wide receivers that go up after the ball like that, I mean, that's a ball that I think it's safe to say half the time ends up being dropped. But look at Hassan Jones, control the football, bring it back in, put it away. And when you're crossing the middle and know that more often than not you're going to get hit, you have to admire that concentration all the more.
From the 49-yard line, Wilson throwing it away. Dan mentioning that great completion percentage for Wilson. There are so many numbers that are thrown at you as far as a quarterback is concerned, and we've talked about this in the past. If you look at yards per attempt, though, that is really a key. And if you're over 8 in that category, you're having a great year. And he's averaging 8.49.
You're in a select few when you're doing that.
And you go back to guys who, well, in fact, we have a graphic. There it is, 60-plus completion percentage and 8.5 yards a pass. Look at those names, and that's the company that Wilson is keeping this year. 2nd and 10 from the 49-yard line. And it's Anthony Carter making the catch at the 42. He's short of the first down. It'll be 3rd and a yard and a half coming up.
Dan touched on something that helps every quarterback, but these two outside receivers, Hassan Jones and Anthony Carter, they have just no regard for their bodies whatsoever when they come across the middle. They concentrate all the way. Carter is a frail receiver as receivers go. Jones is not big either at 190 pounds, but they come across the middle as good as any two wide receivers in this game today.
Well, the one thing about Anthony Carter, at only 177 pounds, the one thing that everyone found out early about Anthony is that he likes to go across the middle, something you wouldn't expect from a receiver that small.
3rd and a long one, and it may be too long for Anderson. I think he only got about half of what he needed, and he's pushed back by McMichael, and it's going to be 4th down and inches now, just outside the 41-yard line.
And here's where being Jerry Burns gets to be a lot easier. When you've got a defensive plays like yours, it's easier to just go ahead and punt the football and let your defense play. And speaking of defense, the Bears so strong up the middle. When you have McMichael, Hampton, Singletary forming that triangle, tough to run on the inside. That time it was Steve McMichael stuffing the play on 3rd and short. But here's that situation where Burns says, what the heck, I'll go ahead and punt. Look at the way my defense is playing.
They're going to try to draw Chicago offside, and they snap it just prior to the expiration of the 45-second clock. And a flag goes down as Scribner got hit. The kick goes into the end zone, but he got hit by Lemuel Stinson.
And keep in mind, even though the new rule running the kicker is only 5 yards, with it only being a foot or a foot and a half for a first down, this will be an automatic first down for the Vikings.
I think Mike's cardiologist just had a heart attack.
On this play, Stinson only had one chance, and that was to either block it, and he's telling him right now, you don't go for the ball where it is. You go where the ball is going to be kicked. You go out in front of the punter, not right at him. And Stinson, and that's what Ditka was telling him, you don't go right at the kicker. You go out in front where the ball is going to be kicked, and you won't hit the punter.
We've got a good illustration of what Frank is talking about, how Stinson has to angle himself to the inside, not so much head straight upfield. Here we are in Telestrator. Here is Stinson right here. He has to curve in, not take that straight shot right to the punter. Right here he has to bend, curve, get in front, take the ball off his foot, not run right into where the kicker is standing.
First down, Minnesota at the 36-yard line, and Wilson will go to the air again. Protected well, but nobody can get open, and he throws it away with 10:29 to play in the half, and Minnesota leading 14-0. Meanwhile, that's as emotional as I've seen Ditka get post-heart attack on the sideline.
Well, I think that Mike knows what's at stake here. He doesn't want to go into the playoffs with a poor performance, and here is the Mike Ditka that has said, it's a new me, I'm going to be calm, but you can hardly blame the guy. He doesn't want his club laying an egg on the eve of the playoffs. This is national television, and he doesn't like to be embarrassed.
Well, you saw Vince Tobin for the moment come over to try to get him calm. There's a little concern over there when Ditka gets this way right now. You better believe it.
Well, then his club ought to try playing a little better.
Well, third down and 10 with Steve Jordan, the intended receiver.
It's been a tough week. The conflict between Dan Hampton, the criticism of quarterback Jim McMahon, and the firing back of Jim McMahon. This is a very antsy football team, and that's hard to believe. They've won 5 consecutive divisional titles. They're 12-3, a win tonight. They have the best record in pro football, and yet this is a very precarious team going into the playoffs.
Well, a look here, only 3 teams that have lost their last regular season game went on to win the Super Bowl. None since the '75 Steelers. So teams like to get a little momentum, obviously, going into postseason.
It's called confidence, and it's called momentum.
Third and 10 from the gun. Wilson, too deep, intended for Leo Lewis, and back there with him, covering on the play, was Maurice Douglas.
Boy, and there's something you've seen the Bears do a million times. Have someone make a mistake, put all sorts of pressure on their defensive team, and look how they respond. If you're a Chicago Bear fan, you have seen this before. And this time, like Vesty Jackson before and Maurice Douglas, not playing the football, playing Leo Lewis.
They're fortunate to have had him. They lost Sean Gale, their free safety, early in the year, and Douglas has really come on at that free safety spot.
Stinson takes a slower rush that time as Scribner gets it away. And out of bounds at about the 11-yard line. Yeah, it's funny. I was watching Stinson. It looked like he was looking for somebody to block him that time.
Yeah, if he would have run into the kicker again, his next contact would have come from Mike Ditka.
He's going to kick the ball.
Watch Stinson go in there. He might as well be wearing a sign that says, hit me, hit me. That's about as far away from the punters you can get.
First down, Chicago. Now from the 12-yard line. They trail 14-0. Tom Zach throwing high. He's really been off target. Brad Muster, the intended receiver, at second down, 10. And let's take a look at these Chicago possessions. And again, the quarterback job, the way it appears right now in Chicago, is Tom Zach's to lose. But here it is tonight. 3 and out. 3 and out, 7 plays and a fumble by Suey and the mistimed handoff, and then 3 more and out again.
But guys, tell me if your impression was the same as mine. He's going to be given an awful lot of leeway by Mike Ditka. Keep in mind that Mike Tomczak is shaking off some rust here tonight. He's coming back from a separated shoulder on his non-throwing shoulder. Ditka's going to give this guy all the room in the world.
Second and 10, it's Anderson. And he's run out of bounds near the 20. I think, Dan, that he's going to look at this whole first half and then have to make a decision at halftime. Do I stay with Tom Zach again and have him be my guy in the playoffs? Because if he's thinking at all about McMahon in the playoffs, he's got to get him some playing time.
Further, what Dan said, he's also going against the #1 defense in the NFL, and specifically the #1 defense against the pass.
Meanwhile, lost in the shuffle here is Neil Anderson, who just went over 1,000 yards for the season on that last 9-yard pickup. There he is. Good average, too. The league average is exactly 4. 3rd and 1 from the 21. Anderson trying to add some more instead. Well, he's on his way to going back under 1,000. Studwell and Solomon drop him back at the 19. And it's cumulative, too. Once you go over 1,000, you can't go back under.
Solomon is one of the Vikings that head coach Jerry Burns feels has been playing just about as well as his Pro Bowl players. Let's watch number 54 and number 55. Solomon turns it inside, and Studwell, the classic middle linebacker, down along the line of scrimmage. You keep your blockers off him, and you make the tackle anywhere from tackle to tackle.
Brian Wagner. It's a punt again. Long but a very low kick, and Leo Lewis can run it back from the 33. But not very far. He's tackled up at the 39-yard line. He's stopped there by Troy Johnson. So Chicago can't move again. Vikings get it back. 9:06 to go in the first half in the Twin Cities. Burris says Anthony Carter has some room and is run out of bounds after an 8-yard pickup. Crowd wants a late hit, and they won't get one. Maurice Douglas making the stop. Wade Wilson throwing a nice block. He threw the block on Ron Rivera
and put him down. Wilson kind of doing it all here tonight. Running the option, blocking on reverses. There's Wade in the bottom left of your screen. Watch him go right down on Ron Rivera, who had a play on Anthony Carter. That gives Anthony another 5 or 6 yards. And Maurice Douglas thought about throwing him to the ground and wisely held up.
2nd and 2 at the 47-yard line.
Oh, there's movement. Terry Tausch, the right guard, came up out of his stance, and that'll be a quick 5.
Ball starts on number 66 at 5 yards. 2nd down.
You always got to keep your eye on Ben, don't you? There is Bortz.
They're saying that he has a bruised right thigh, and it's questionable whether he'll return. And again, the advantage of being the division champion, you get a week off. The Bears don't have to play for 2 weeks. And anytime you get an injury in a game like this, that extra week of recuperation is key.
So they're minus Bortz and Van Horn now on 3rd and 7. And the catch, no, it's dropped by Steve Jordan. And Mike Singletary proving he can do it all. Rush or cover. And certainly tackle, making the play.
But if you're Minnesota, this is the matchup you dream of, getting your tight end locked up one-on-one with the middle linebacker, because middle linebackers aren't supposed to be able to get that far downfield running with the modern-day tight end, especially a guy like Jordan with his speed. But not an average middle linebacker.
Oh, what a great play. He didn't even see the ball until it was in the hands of Jordan, and he flicked it away.
I mean, that's a touchdown against most teams in this league.
3rd and 7. Bears rush 5, and wide open for a first down is Anthony Carter. Boy, did he find the open spot. Bestie Jackson makes the tackle.
Beautiful downfield move by Anthony Carter, who sells Vesty Jackson that he's running a fly pattern, and body control extraordinaire. Watch Carter sell the deep route and just stop. I mean, just stop.
He could have sold him anything. He sold him an out, he sold him a fly, and he just stopped, and Jackson had no clue where he was.
Frank, how can a guy be running downfield full speed and stop in one step? I mean, he stops in one step, one stride.
At the 44-yard line. Tackled from behind, and the sack recorded by Dan Hampton, who missed him the first time and just kept pursuing. and gets him from a rear.
He may not be going to the Pro Bowl, but Dan Hampton and Steve McMichael have been playing Pro Bowl football all year long.
This is Dan Hampton. He's going to get blocked here, but watch him loop all the way around. This is what you call a hustle sack. This is where a guy is blocked. He's out of the play. Watch Hampton end up way to the inside when Wilson scrambles. It's easy to quit there and not keep going, but watch him fight, make the turn, make the 180, come back and get him.
Boy, the slack they've had to take up with Richard Dent out of that lineup.
That's 9.5 sacks now this season for Hampton, who's shaken up, and 21 sacks for he and McMichael, the two tackles. And is there a flag on that play?
Yeah.
You betcha there is. Gustafson, the intended receiver, and he was blanketed in more ways than one by Vesti Jackson.
Jackson up tight on the bump and run, tried to stay with him. And Gustafson had him beaten, and he got the arm in there.
Yeah, and I bet it's the left arm, too, with that flag coming out of the deep secondary. Let's watch Jackson's left arm. Yep, there it is. See how he gets it around behind? That's so apparent to that referee far down the field. See, look at that left arm. That's going to bring it every time.
And what that does, it turns a 2nd and 18 into a 1st and 10.
Not a pretty thing for Mike Ditka to watch. Bears very shaky here in the first half. And it's been a shaky week. We've already talked about the problems internally. And what he's seeing on the field, he's not liking at all.
At the 45-yard line. To D. Dozier, and Dozier is out of bounds at about the 46-yard line. Now he backs up Darren Nelson. You'll recall Dozier was hurt in preseason. He was hurt in the game in Sweden when these two teams met. He's been slow in coming back.
The whole counter motion is to get this guy trapped to the one side. You saw Mike Singletary take the step, but then he beats the blocker, and this is, again, nothing more than just extraordinary hustle by Mike Singletary. The counter motion, the fake one direction, is to freeze this guy. Keep him out of the play. They can't do it.
2nd and 11, Minnesota at the 46. Vikings lead 14-0. 7:27 to go in the half. At the 40-yard line, the catch is made by Dozier. And he's stopped by Jim Morrissey. It'll be 3rd and about 5 at the 40-yard line.
Bob Schnelker, former teammate of mine, is the man who sends all the plays into the Vikings, calls them on the sidelines, and then sends them in with the receivers or the running backs. Schnelker, a 3-time Pro Bowler in the 7 years that I played with him in the Giants. Talked to him earlier. Did you ever think about a head coaching job, Bob? He said, well, I interviewed last year for Green Bay, but they think I'm a little old for it now. And then you turn around and look at his colleague, and he's 62 years old.
3rd and 5, inside handoff to Rice, who tries to turn it back and has no room inside, thanks to Mike Singletary, and Vesti Jackson coming up to help out, so they'll have to punt.
Same man.
I know it might seem redundant, but what are we going to do? We've got to call the guy's number. He actually gets blocked into the play by Leo Lewis, and we still have a Chicago Bear down on the field. It's Mike Singletary that hasn't yet gotten to his feet.
Well, this is the last thing in the world Chicago would want to have happen tonight. They can lose 90-0, but to lose somebody to an injury for the playoffs, and not that this is the type of injury here, it doesn't appear to be initially, but it's the last thing that Chicago would want to have happen tonight, to lose a starter.
Well, as far as raising Mike Ditka's heart rate, there's not a player on the field that he could afford to lose less than Mike Singletary.
Singletary took a shot from Dozier, but he also got hit by his own man coming in late on the tackle. And when you're always relieved is when the man gets up and he's not limping. He can take most anything in this game. With the ankles and the knees. I think we'll see more of Mike Singletary tonight.
4th down and 5 as Scribner comes in to kick. And McKinnon drops back deep.
The Bears need a spark, Al. Frank, they need a spark, a big play, something from somewhere.
Maybe a Stinson blocked kick. No, he didn't go very far that time either. And the ball is down at about the 9-yard line. Walker Lee Ashley downing it there, and we'll stay here after the 30-yard kick. And what about a most memorable moment for that man, Mike Singletary? And we'll get that queued up for you. And a smile on his face, and that would indicate that there's nothing serious.
Yeah,
5:49 to go.
When you see the ice towel on the back of the neck, that's a pretty good indication that he just got his bell rung. He just got a hard hit to the head, and he's just trying to shake it loose.
Bears now from their 9, trailing 14-0. Anderson picks up close to 7. He is stopped at about the 16-yard line by Al Baker and John Harris. A couple of guys with a lot of mileage. Baker in his 11th year and Harris in his 11th.
Frank, one of the things about the Bears and them not having an urgency to win this game is that they're not forced to come out of their game plan and go crazy throwing the football every down.
I think you're right. They'll stay right with it. Mike Ditka would like to see something happen before the half, something positive. They have been stumbling all over the field throughout the first half. He'd like to see them get something going, and they won't leave their game plan whatsoever.
Second and a long 2 from the 16, and it's Anderson fumbling at the 19-yard line, and that's been the problem with Anderson. Minnesota recovers. Scott Studwell.
That's the 8th time this season, and 2 of them have been critical fumbles in the last couple of games, and Ditka was very critical this past week of Anderson about his concentration.
And you have to feel for Neil Anderson, because coming into tonight's game, you know, he said, please, if there's one thing that happens tonight, don't let me fumble the football. And there's John Harris just waiting for him in the hole, and boy, it wasn't much of a hit, was it, guys?
No.
Hardly a jarring tackle, forcing that ball loose.
So that's a burgeoning problem now for Neil Anderson, who is in distress as Minnesota takes over at the 19-yard line. And the catch is made by Alfred Anderson for the touchdown.
Catch them when they're down, and Wade Wilson comes right back firing after that fumble and the fumble recovery. Mike Ditka, in all of his playing days, he only fumbled 9 times. We talked to him last night about it. He said, I only remember fumbling 1 time, and I can remember Papa Bear Hallis running down the sidelines. He went to grab me by the back of the neck.
As I watch this, fellas, 2 things come to mind. 1, how poorly this is being received in Los Angeles. And number 2, how everyone in a purple jersey and everyone in this stadium is thinking, what if we would have beaten the Packers last week? What if?
This could have been the game for the Central Division title. Chuck Nelson for the point after. And so one Anderson fumbles and the other Anderson takes it in. No relation.
What ifs, would haves, and could haves.
Yep. Well, we talk about memorable moments. Wade Wilson having a few more tonight, and we asked him to recount his most memorable moment. Here's what he said.
My most memorable moment in football had to be back in 1985. I had an opportunity to start against the Philadelphia Eagles and was taken out. We were down 23-0, and I got put back in the game with 8 minutes to go and threw 3 touchdowns, and we ended up beating Philadelphia 28-23.
I guess the thing you feel good about Wade Wilson is that this is his ball club now. He's no longer just the guy that fills in when Tommy Kramer is injured or can't make it or doesn't play well in the first half, like he said there in his most memorable moment, that he has to come in and sub. Wade Wilson is the guy now that leads the Minnesota Vikings, and when you see the kind of year he's had so far this year and you see the way he's playing tonight, Frank, no wonder. This guy's solid top to bottom.
He was the starter when he was injured, missed a couple of games. Kramer came in and played well. He was the quarterback of record against the Bears in that 31-7 loss, and then after missing a couple of games, Wade Wilson came back, and they have a kind of a policy here. I was talking to Bob Schnelker about it earlier. You never lose your job with an injury, and Wade Wilson came back after a shoulder injury, and Tommy Kramer, there he is right now, went to the bench, never complained, never griped about it, and it's paid off for the Vikings. And a big year, the NFC's leading passer, Wade Wilson, on the way to the Pro Bowl.
Well, you can't have enough good quarterbacks, and this tandem, Wilson and Kramer, they fit together very well here in Minneapolis.
At the 15-yard line, Dennis Gentry returns it out to the 36. Bears will begin from there with 4:48 to play in a first half dominated by the Vikings on both sides of the ball. They lead 21-0.
I tell you, this is getting serious for the Bears.
I guess they still need a big play. We shouldn't have started talking about it.
The irony is there's Sanders in your picture. They had talked about him replacing Anderson if they were to make a change. The oddity is Sanders has the second highest fumble rate in the league.
Yeah, well, you notice it's Matsui in the ball game now
as the sole running back in this set. And Tom Zach throws another incomplete pass intended for the tight end James Thornton. And I'm telling you, the second half is going to be very interesting to see what decision Ditka makes in regard to that man who has not played since the end of October when he hurt his knee in the New England game.
1985, the year the Bears won the Super Bowl, we were here for a Vikings game, and the Vikings were leading 17-9. We had been told prior to the game that this man, Jim McMahon, was only an absolute drastic quarterback. He was in case everybody went down. But with a 17-9 lead, Ditka brought him off the bench. First two passes, touchdowns, and the Bears went on to win it going away.
2nd and 10. And Tom Zach, another bad pass. He's now 2 of 11. Intended for McKinnon. That's 6 straight incomplete passes, and it's 3rd down and 10.
Yeah, you'd like to pull for him, and that's 2 passes. Receivers were wide open, and a little bit of pressure, not much. Not going to get that much protection against the #1 defense in the league very often, and he just flat missed them.
Jesse Solomon is the injured Viking. You know, they have 9 guys going to the Pro Bowl, but here's a guy, and you talk to the Vikings and Jerry Burns and all the people who see this team play every game, and they say, don't forget about this guy right here. He's been having a heck of a season, but he's just been overlooked.
Well, of all their defensive people up front, Jesse Solomon is probably their best athlete. Fine speed, outstanding quickness, averaging 114 tackles in his 3 years. That tells you what kind of pursuit he has and ability to get to the football, and more than just a casual observer there.
I think it's interesting to note here's a guy who leads the team in tackles, and yet Studwell and Browner and Millard and Lee and Dolman are all going to the Pro Bowl.
Well, I'll tell you something about the Pro Bowl. You always go a year after you deserve it, and you always seem to make it a year after you don't deserve it. It's almost like a delayed reaction. Because what happens is every team in the National Conference votes for the Pro Bowl, but not all of them played the Vikings this year. So it really takes a while. It takes that extra year for a guy like Jesse Solomon to get that notoriety.
Exactly. 3rd and 10. And Tom Zach, Morris saved him on the play. Morris was going back toward the middle of the field and then had to stop to make the catch. And that baby wasn't thrown on the money, but it's a completion anyway and a first down at the 50.
I'll tell you, that was a good pass by Tom Zach.
That's a better pass than you think, Al.
Pressured right out of the pocket. Now, this is a hard ball to throw. I mean, he's off balance. He knows he's got to get rid of it. He was up in the air when he released it, and that ball, as Ditka said, he's got a strong arm because that ball traveled about 25 or 30 yards.
Now, give Morris a little credit here, too, for coming back. Yeah. At the 50-yard line. 1st and 10. Boy, tough crowd up here tonight. Jeez.
Well, I mean, that was under pressure just about as good a throw as a guy could make.
At the 50. Anderson stopped by Millard.
Talking to Keith Millard down on the field before the game, he said, I want to tell you something. I'm fired up about playing this game tonight. This is my first Monday night game. Here's Millard right here, and this is just steady defensive line play. This is why the guy's going to the Pro Bowl. Takes on Tom Thayer, just fights right through his head across the line of scrimmage. When he first makes contact with Neil Anderson, he's on the Bears side of the line of scrimmage. And he said, hey, I am ready to play tonight. I want the exposure.
3:43 and another injured Viking. And
is that Chris Dolman, 56?
Well, I don't want to speculate. Well, yes, it is. And we can see from that angle. Yeah. Ooh, this has not been a real good series for Jerry Burns and the Vikings.
Again, they're looking at the leg. And Doman in obvious pain.
Of course, the same thing would apply to Minnesota, almost to the same extent as it would to Chicago. The last thing Chicago would want to have happen is to lose somebody in a meaningless game. This is not what you'd call a meaningless game for Minnesota. They're fighting for home field. It would be excruciating to lose somebody under these circumstances.
It's actually Anderson and Millard that fall on top of Dolman right there after he's on the ground. And he is walking off without assistance, so that's a good sign for Viking fans.
2nd and 8 now for Chicago at the Minnesota 48-yard line. 3:34 to play in the half. Al Noga comes in to spell him, number 99, a rookie out of the University of Hawaii. Nico's brother. And Tomczak to Gentry. He makes a juggling catch. Beautiful catch at the 14-yard line. Coverage by Browner.
Gentry, who's given the Bears so many big plays this season, and simple down and in, and then a break to the outside. Tomczak under pressure again by Millard, fires the ball just as Gentry was breaking to the outside. Well thrown ball.
Almost dropped. Dennis Gentry made that catch appear harder than it was. The ball right there for Mike Tomczak, and excellent concentration by Dennis Gentry. Boy, did he stay with that or what?
First down at the 14. Crowd trying to make it difficult for the Chicago signals to be heard. Draw Kasui in a big hole to the 8-yard line. Gain of 6. Stopped by Ray Berry, the linebacker. No relation to the New England coach. 2nd down and 4. Here's Berry, second year out of Baylor. Chicago. 1 touchdown in the last 2.5 games. And that was a quarterback draw by Jim Harbaugh.
In that game last week against Detroit.
It's the Rams watching tonight. They held them to 3 points. And a totally dominant performance by the Rams a couple of weeks ago out in Los Angeles.
And a totally dominant performance here thus far by Minnesota as we come to the 2-minute warning at the Metrodome. 21-zip Vikings.
Genuine, never heat pasteurized. A beer that's made unlike any other. Cold filtered to give you the rich, smooth taste of real draft beer. That's the mark of a great beer. Cold filtered Miller Genuine Draft. It's as real as it gets.
You know, some things in life are as inevitable as the tide. I always thought there really wasn't anything I could do about my hair loss until I talked to my doctor. He diagnosed my problem. We talked about the treatment options. It's good to have the medical facts. And the fact is, there may be some hope for me.
See your doctor if you're concerned about hair loss.
Dear Rayovac, I've had a battery-operated back scratcher in the drawer for years and years. We had 2 Rayovac batteries in it. I turned it on, and lo and behold, they were still good. We were really surprised, and so was everyone else. No one believed it until we showed them that they still worked. How's that for good batteries? Sincerely, Mrs. Margaret Bronert, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Rayovac. Batteries that turn people on.
Rodney Peete leads the USC Trojans against Michigan in the 75th Rose Bowl game. College football's grandest tradition comes to ABC Sports January 2nd.
2nd down and 5 at the 9. What happens when Chicago gets inside the 10? Will they take it in for a touchdown? 4/5 of the time. The league average less than 2/3. So the Bears know what to do when they get the ball deep in their opponent's territory.
That's surprising as rarely as they get there.
2nd down and 5 from the 9-yard line. And Suey again for a first down at the 3-yard line. It'll be 1st and goal.
You know, we just had a graphic showing how Chicago has had trouble scoring touchdowns, and we followed up by telling you how well they do inside the 10-yard line. And it's a club that I guess maybe ought to organize their offense around trying to get to the 10-yard line, because once they're there, they score.
Well, the Vikings are going to try to organize their defense because they have taken the time out here with the 1st and goal upcoming and 1:42 to play in the first half.
Vikings have been very effective keeping their opponents out of the end zone also, and up until the opening quarter of the Green Bay game last week, the Vikings had not given up a touchdown in 17 quarters. It's been a good drive for Tom Zach. A couple of well-thrown balls, particularly the one to Gentry, chased out of the pocket.
.142 first half. 1st and goal from the 2-yard line. Suey and Anderson are the running backs. Anderson stopped at the 3-yard line. And was he ever cradling the ball? And it's Carl Lee who comes up from the corner, the Pro Bowl cornerback, who makes the hit.
He was squeezing the core out of that ball, covering up with both hands. That's what you should do, particularly when you get down in close and you run inside trying to bring it back against the grain. You've got to cover it up.
When you're in that I formation like the Bears were last time, it's really up to the linebackers to flow and to take that pitch. That time Minnesota was all over it.
2nd and goal. Anderson again. Studwell makes the tackle. Ditka calls timeout. Ditka's also doing another thing here with Anderson by putting him in after the fumble and after the problems that he's had. He's basically saying, hey, man, you're my guy. I still have the confidence in you.
Nobody is for Anderson more than Mike Ditka, but there's nothing that frustrates somebody like a Mike Ditka more than a fumble. And they have had a rash of them, and Anderson over the last 3 games has fumbled the ball in critical situations. The Bears were on a drive inside the 20-yard line when it was turned over by Anderson a short while ago. Something going all the way in and then get this one in. You're talking about being only down by 7.
Tells me that it's going to take something a little more imaginative, though, by Chicago offensively than just getting in the I formation and trying to slam it at Minnesota. I mean, that last run by Anderson was the most basic play in the Bears offense, and I just think it really plays to the strength of the Minnesota defense, their ability to flow to the football.
You got an agile quarterback, maybe something with a little bit of a rollout to give Tom Zach a chance to look it over.
Come up in a double wing on 3rd down and goal from the 3. And give it to Suey, and he stopped at the 1-yard line.
Not so much for the imagination.
And it's going to be 4th and goal. And a timeout is taken by Minnesota.
Well, they try a trap. You see Kurt Becker, the guard, pulling and trying to get across, but you see Studwell come in. Ray Berry, the other linebacker, down on the legs of Matt Suey. And boy, you just can't play goal line defense any better. We've seen these last 3 downs.
That quick trap stuff, Dan, you well know that's good stuff down there inside the 1, about the 2-yard line. But
oh no, I like the call. Better than the previous 2 for sure.
You get so much pursuit behind it. They got the yard and a half out of it. But they're going against the number 2 defense against the rush in the league. The Bears number 1 and the Vikings are number 2. And they've tried it 3 times.
So it's 4th down and goal. 47 seconds to go in the half. 21-0 Minnesota.
I think the crowd will tell them whether they get in or not here.
Yep.
This time they sent Gentry and McKinnon both split left.
I'll never hear the count.
Uh-oh. This could go on for a while, too. Just ask Whitey Herzog.
That's right. You've been here before, haven't you?
A couple of times. house of din.
The acoustics are unbelievable. Even before the game, we were down on the field, and it is unbelievably loud down there. It seems to come focus wherever you stand. And it'll come to another crescendo as soon as Tomczak gets behind the center once again.
And that's how you win ball games, isn't it? 2 touchdowns, 22 quarters.
That's the mathematics on that. That's 5.5 games. 2 touchdowns allowed.
Dan was talking about the differential of dome teams and natural surface teams and playoff victories. Maybe this is a part of the scenario.
Now look at this. They're going to send in Butler, and Ditka's asking the crowd to lay it on. And Mike, I think what Mike is saying, hey, if you're not going to let us call the signals, we'll just send in the field goal unit here.
But I tell you what he's done. He just made a last-minute substitution, running in his field goal team, trying to get 3 points. How about this?
Yeah, well, it's almost as if, and he's telling the crowd, hey, look, if you're going to keep it up, fine. We'll just go for 3 here with Butler. And they get it. It's like somebody flipped the switch. From silence to booing.
It's almost like Ditka said, all right, I'll concede. You're going to make so much noise, I won't be able to run a playoff.
Exactly. That's the point I was making, is he was saying to the crowd here, all right, if you're going to be this way.
Well, I think he's being a little facetious with that reaction.
Yeah,
I watched him walk away, and he said, come on, crowd, let's hear it. Let's hear it, guys.
I realize that you don't like it up here, Mike, but I don't know that I would necessarily let the crowd dictate my decisions. If I had made up my mind that I was going to go for the touchdown.
Right. The crowd may have saved 4 points for Minnesota.
I think that's called being 12-3, home field advantage, even down 21-0. Well, again, serious problems.
If the man is anything, he's unpredictable.
Yep. He's fascinating, too. One of the great characters in sports today.
And isn't he fun in the unpredictability of it?
Yep.
Very refreshing in every way.
He's great. What you see is what you get with him.
All right, now let me throw this out on the table. How was that decision received in Los Angeles?
For Chicago right now anyway in Los Angeles.
They would have had a lot more hope if it would have been 21-7.
You just broke the table.
Yep.
That's a heavy one.
21-7, they have a lot more hope.
Would have been received a lot worse if Minnesota was still playing outside. At least if the Rams have to come here. It'll be a lot better than the last time the Rams played a playoff game in Minnesota.
I like playing at the Met. Great ballpark.
At the 1-yard line, DJ Dozier brings it back out to the 23 with 39 seconds now remaining. And halftime approaches. And here's what we'll have for you at the half. Mike Webster, will he retire? Well, Lynn Swann, his teammate for so many years in Pittsburgh, we'll find out from a long-time Steelers center, the last link to the past. And well, some impressions. I don't know if that means Rich Little will be here or what, but some final impressions in regard to the 1988 season.
At least Billy Crystal.
From your humble correspondence.
And look at this. The Vikings with a 21-3 lead go to the shotgun.
Into the air, and it's dropped by Allen Rice. 33 seconds now.
A lot of confidence in your quarterback, Wade Wilson. You let him put it up. One thing that could hurt them is to turn it over and let the Bears have an opportunity to put some more points up there.
Pretty high percentage pass. Not so high percentage that it couldn't be dropped by Rice.
Meanwhile, Singletary is in there. There he is, number 50. So he was shaken up, but he was in there. And for Minnesota, Dolman was in defensively on the last series, and they say Solomon is fine and may return. You're updated on the injuries, and here's the sack by Troy Johnson, number 92, back at the 17-yard line. And Ben Dreith signals a Chicago timeout. They'll take a timeout with 3rd and long and hope to get the ball back.
Look at Singletary's helmet. That mark wasn't there when we started this game. No wonder they were putting an ice cold towel on the back of his neck. That abrasion was not there at the beginning of this contest tonight.
Looks like it could be some company's logo.
Looks like it could be a face mask, part of a face mask of a Viking helmet.
The eyes of Mike Singletary.
Funny, we were out here yesterday watching the Bears practice, and a couple of the Bears linebackers yelled at us while they were going through some of their drills. "You going to show us Singletary's eyes tomorrow night?" I think a little good-natured ribbing about the exposure that Mike Singletary gets, and little did they know we were going to show his helmet instead.
Chicago is out of timeouts, and Minnesota will run the clock out. So that'll do it. Again, Minnesota fighting for home field advantage in the wild card game, which will be played next Monday, either here or in Anaheim. And it's the first half controlled and dominated by the Vikings. And again, the report on Solomon is just a bruised knee, but there he is being assisted off the field. Doesn't appear to be serious. And 61-year-old Jerry Burns leaves the field with his team in control by a score of 21-3. We'll return to the Metrodome after this message from the NFL, a word about an upcoming show on ABC, and a word from your local station. Coming up at the half, Mike Webster, the last link to greatness, just maybe. The Metrodome in Minneapolis, Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, and Dan Dierdorf. Final game of the regular season. And again, if you tuned in late, Minnesota wins tonight. They host the Rams here next Monday in the wild card game. If they lose tonight, they go to Anaheim to meet the Rams. That's what's at stake. 21-3 Vikings. Minnesota kicking off. Nelson puts it in the air. And the third quarter begins with a run back by Gentry and a flag at the 24-yard line. And we'll get the call from Ben Dreith. Going against Chicago, so they'll be pinned deep in their own territory to start the second half, and it's still Tomczak.
10 yards and it's first down.
That's Mickey Pruitt. And so Mike Ditka, who has a choice here, and again, we talked about this in regard to, and you'll see the clip coming up, whether he'd stay with Tomczak or go with McMahon. Here's the clip. And that puts them back at the 11-yard line, and McMahon, and this is a very interesting situation, on the sideline at the 11. First and 10. Anderson takes it out to the 18. Tomczak, and a flag goes down. Tomczak obviously did not have a good first half. Ditka's got to think about the playoffs, and Tomczak appears to be his man.
4 of 13 yards, or 4 of 13 rather, for 60 yards. Missed receivers that were open. This is a statement by Ditka, I believe.
Yep.
Keep in mind, though, that Tomczak played a lot better.
Defense offside. They're going to take the penalty. That's 5 yards, and it's first down.
In the second quarter, towards the end of the second quarter, in the one drive that resulted in a Chicago field goal, Mike Tomczak really played well. So I'm sure that that's something Mike Ditka talked to Tomczak about at halftime. Said, hey, I know you had a shaky start. You were all over the place, but you looked like you settled down. Just keep that same kind of flow going here in the second half. It'll be interesting to see if he can.
First and 5 from the 16. Anderson. Gain of 1. It's now second and 4. I know one thing. I'd love to hear McMahon's radio show tomorrow morning. Talk about a penny for somebody's thoughts. Speaking of pennies and dollars, this ABC Sports exclusive is being brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft. Cold filtered for real draft taste. It's as real as it gets. By Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Tots Champagne. Experience Tots tonight.
The other thing I think we got to bring out about Jim McMahon, Matt Suey's still down on the ground holding his right ankle not up. But as we talk about McMahon, now here's a guy that hasn't played since October. I mean, we're assuming that he's dying to get in there tonight. They're down 21-3. I mean, how much constructive work could Jim McMahon get done in this, in these set of circumstances? I don't know. It's
a very capricious thing, the knee, and of course they thought McMahon would be ready. They activated him last week as Suey is being assisted off the field. They activated McMahon last week, and then late in the week on Friday, I believe, that he went to an outside doctor, his own doctor, and the doctor advised him against playing. And so When they thought they could get him back last week, they couldn't medically.
2nd and 4 on the subject of knees. The report on Jesse Solomon, the Minnesota linebacker, sprained right knee. They've immobilized it. He will not be back. But they don't think it's serious. That's the report from the Minnesota dressing room. 2nd down and 4. And the catch is made by Dennis McKinnon at the 24-yard line, and enough for a first down. Reggie Rutland with the coverage on the play.
And that was a good throw by Mike Tomczak. Keeping the ball low, keeping it down away, because Rutland really had good coverage on McKinnon, and that was just the touch on the ball he needed to get the first down. Meanwhile, Minnesota and their defensive line, they are just about out of people. They are getting awful thin.
Thomas gone, Newton gone, Martin, who was a starter, gone to surgery. Tomczak deep. McKinnon out in front. Touchdown. And does that bring some joy to Mike Ditka's heart?
And a beautifully thrown pass, dead in stride. The Vikings tried to get double coverage on it, and getting over there late was Joey Browner, but Tomczak hit McKinnon right in stride.
Yeah, Joey Browner kind of took a flat angle. Part of the problem there, Rutland doesn't get much of a hit on McKinnon. Now watch Browner come into your picture, and you see how his angle was a little flat. Looks like Joey misjudged where he had to go on the football field to be able to put a hit on McKinnon.
Remember, Ditka talked about the strength of the arm of Tomczak. I think Joey Browner thought he could get to that ball and pick it off, and consequently he took the bad angle, and it was a rifle by Tomczak and right in stride to McKinnon.
And the extra point is good by Kevin Butler, 76 yards. Tomczak to McKinnon, and all of a sudden it's gone from 21-0 to 21-10. For that touchdown pass, Tomczak in the entire game was 5 of 14 for 67 yards. And one throw, good for 76 yards. And Tomczak had a few words for Scott Studwell on the way back to the bench.
Well, I think his attitude is one of the things that endears him to Mike Ditka. This guy is a street fighter.
E.J. Dozier takes the kick at the 7-yard line. And back to the 28.
First of all, look at the protection. There is no one in a purple jersey anywhere near Mike Tomczak when he releases that football. That's a big help to a quarterback. And again, Frank, we see Browner coming in late and coming in with the wrong angle.
And Rutland, the cornerback, did nothing to slow him down to help Browner in his coverage deep. And here's Tomczak right after that ball, and we talked about he's got a cocky attitude about it. He thinks he can get it done. Look at that, right to Studwell. You don't mess with linebackers, though. You learn that very early.
Well, Tomczak doesn't run the ball up in the line of scrimmage. He can afford to jaw more than maybe Neil Anderson could.
From the 28, the whistle had sounded before the play. No play. All right, Ben, who goofed? We have to know.
And have some compassion.
Start on the right guard. That's a 5-yard penalty. That's first down.
The great thing about, the thing about Drake, he talks in complete sentences. Every other referee is in ellipses or cryptically. Not Ben, subjects and verbs and the whole thing.
It makes you feel so guilty, though. I mean, they go slinking back to the huddle. It's like he's on the bench or something. And
the players never appreciated it, Frank. I mean, the player.
I know.
I'm sure Ben's a wonderful guy. In fact, I know he's got a sense of humor sending that picture up here. We got a chuckle out of it, but the players take it personal when he barks at him like that. Not that anyone cares if their feelings are hurt.
A draw on 1st and 15, and Allen Rice gets it out to the 32-yard line. It'll be 2nd down and 6 with 12.5 minutes to play in the third quarter. Morrissey in on the tackle. What about Chicago? Coaches talk about holding your opponent after you've scored. Look at that. Chicago has held their opponent without a touchdown on all 35 possessions following Bear TDs, which is truly extraordinary, and a lot of it has to do with that man right there, Vince Tobin, the defensive coordinator,
whose name surfaced late this afternoon about the possibilities of coaching vacancies around the country, and some coaches' jobs that aren't yet vacancies.
In particular, Kansas City. 2nd down and 6, and it's dropped by Steve Jordan, the tight end. It'll be 3rd down.
And I think all those coaches still employed know exactly who we're talking about.
Yeah, well, 2 coaches that have really been suffering at the hands of the rumor mill were Al Saunders and Frank Gans. And this afternoon, Al Saunders was fired in San Diego, and Frank Gans in Kansas City continues to be the subject of a lot of rumors. And Carl Peterson today hired as president of the Kansas City Chiefs, given a 4-year contract. And you really have to wonder, is Frank Gans going to be Carl Peterson's coach? New president, maybe new coach.
3rd and 6, and out of the shotgun, it's Alan Rice taking the inside handoff. Stop at the 32-yard line.
That's Dan Hampton and Randall McDaniel.
Good to have Carl Peterson back in this game, though, too. He developed a couple of champions for the USFL and has been out of it, looking around as we watched the last play and to see what set off the activity.
Well, Dan Hampton, there's only one thing that makes a defensive lineman fight, and that's when he thinks he's being held. But that's a good look at the old bull and the young bull. Dan Hampton in his 10th year out of Arkansas, former #1 draft choice, going against Randall McDaniel, the Vikings #1 draft choice this year.
Bucky Scribner's left-footed kick is a good one, and it's out of bounds inside the 25-yard line. In fact, inside the 20, and they spot it at the 19 with 10:57 to go in the 3rd quarter in Minneapolis.
They said that?
Yeah, I think we've covered 10:57 to go in the 3rd quarter in the Metrodome. Sold out again in Minneapolis. And Chicago all of a sudden down by 11 after trailing by 21. They take over at the 19-yard line. Muster goes in motion, and Anderson takes the handoff. He's chased by Studwell. He's able to turn the corner on him and thrown out of bounds by Reggie Rutland up at about the 23.
One thing we can do is update that stat about the Chicago Bears and their defense. It had been 35 times after a touchdown they didn't allow a score. We can now make that 36, and let's see now if the Bears offensively can take advantage of it. McMichael on the left, Al Harris on the right. Boy, these guys are just, when you consider the staggering turnover on the Bears defensive team and look at how their performance hasn't dropped, everyone who plays defense or coaches defense for the Bears should be congratulated.
2nd and 5. Tomczak almost had the ball taken out of his hand. There may be a face mask here. Flag goes down, and a face mask call could be coming up on Baker.
Tomczak knew that he had Anderson wide open, and that could have been 6.
Number 60 grabbed him by the face mask, the quarterback. That's a 5-yard penalty.
2 majors now against Baker. And Tomczak was upset that he didn't get that ball to Anderson because it could have gone all the way.
The one thing about it is a defensive end rushes the quarterback, though. You can certainly understand how this can happen. Baker just trying to grab out, get anything he can. As you can see, he can't even see Mike Tomczak. His head was twisted the other way. That's just one of those inadvertent. And Mike Tomczak, good call, Ben. Good call.
Look at that.
I'll tell you, that's what Mike Ditka likes about him.
Yeah, well, I don't know that it really endears him to Ben Dreif at all.
Yeah, he's a street fighter. He hit him right on the head, and so is Mike Ditka.
I don't believe I've ever seen a player pat a referee on the cheek and say, "Nice job, fella."
Ben Dreif is even smart.
Look at that.
Oh, tape that baby. We'll send it home.
Yep. First and 10. Chicago at the 28-yard line. Pump fake. Going deep. Look at that coverage. And no flag. Reggie Rutland had McKinnon blanketed. And you don't cover somebody much better than that.
That's where I give it 3 pluses. A plus to Tomczak for the throw because it's excellent. McKinnon a good effort, and Reggie Rutland just outstanding coverage. Watch where the ball comes in. If the coverage isn't what it is, that's a catchable pass. I mean, that's just where everybody does their job so well that nothing happens. It sounds strange, but it can happen like that.
2nd and 10. Tomczak, and he hits his tight end Cap Boso, who was questionable as to whether he would appear tonight. He suffered bruised ribs last week in the game against Detroit, but he makes his first catch of the night up at the 36-yard line. Still, they're short of the first down by 2.
That's when Tomczak just squeezed in there again, exhibiting the strong arm. Looked downfield, tried to find McKinnon downfield, couldn't find him, checked off and found Bozo and fired it in there, but short of the first.
Chicago trying to keep the drive going, 3rd and a long one. Again, Minnesota needs a victory to stay home for Christmas and host the wild card game next Monday. A loss, and they go to Anaheim. And on 3rd and a yard and a half, Tomczak off play action has Morris, and a flag goes down at the 49-yard line. Rutland is contending that he was the man interfered with. And he's not going to get the call with that expression.
Defense, pass interference. They decline the penalty, take the catch, and it's first down.
Again, another strong arm effort by Tomczak, and this was good coverage by Rutland. They'll call it pass interference, but he was right there, and here comes Morris to the inside, and that ball is whistling in there.
Yep.
Right hand, but it was almost within the 5-yard area.
First down at the 49-yard line for the Bears. Minnesota leading by 11.
Oh, how quickly you forget the fumble. Great effort by Neil Anderson. New ball game.
That's the Bears attacking the unmanned side of the Viking defense. The Vikings will always overshift their defensive line. 3 defensive linemen to one side of the ball. This time the Bears, whether an audible or not, go to the bubble, go to that offside, and Neil Anderson finds a huge hole and gets through it.
Good coverage at the line of scrimmage, but Anderson had 2 men in front of them. One of them was the rookie, Brad Muster, who he was able to cut behind. Look over on the left side.
You see the 3 linemen were to the bottom of the screen. A lot of people might have thought, some of the Vikings included, that Anderson might have been boxed into the sidelines. Instead, he breaks it back to the middle of the field and finds an alley to the end zone.
Just to emphasize what that graphic means, 4 rushing plays of 40 or more yards for Anderson. Nobody else in the league has more than 2 this year.
I'll tell you what else it means. It means Neil Anderson stays in the ballgame whether he fumbles or not.
Butler's kick is taken by Dozier. He's going to bring it out from 2 yards in. Gingerly. And down he goes at the 18-yard line, and look at the Bears.
And Dozier is still down, slow to get up.
He came out of the end zone tentatively to begin with. And meanwhile, we can tell you coming up next on the West Coast, those of you in the eastern half of the country hopefully have already seen that. It preceded our game. Brian Boitano's Canvas of Ice next on the West Coast. And we have the Rose Bowl here on ABC for the first time ever, where the Michigan Wolverines and the Trojans of Southern California meet head-on the 2nd of January.
A couple of impartial viewers up here in the booth, I guess.
Absolutely. I almost broke into the fight songs.
You and I will, I would imagine, get together on some sort of a friendly wager before that is played.
We will handle it in a gentlemanly way.
Frank brought the horse into the booth tonight.
In other words, you're going to lose.
I was going to say, in that case, who am I going to get to represent me?
Wade Wilson scrambling on first down and hits Steve Jordan. Ron Rivera takes the tight end out of bounds after a 13-yard gain up to the 31.
Good work again by Wilson. He wanted to go to Hassan Jones. He was covered. Spun away from the traffic and was able to get the completion.
That's Sean Smith, number 97, coming in from the backside. But one of the things that Wade Wilson has always done so well is tremendous pocket sense. When to float out, when to buy a little extra time. Not so much to run with the football, but buy a little more time so he can throw it. He likes to throw the ball.
Shovels it outside. And this is Harris, Darrell Harris, his first carry of the night out to the 34. He's had a balky knee, and there was some question as to whether he'd play or not. He's run back a kick. He's a rookie out of Arizona State, a free agent, and he'd be a third teamer on the depth chart. Behind Darren Nelson and DJ Dozier.
The Vikings pretty big on Arizona State this year.
Yep.
Harris, a rookie from Arizona State. Todd Callis, a backup guard, a fourth-round draft choice, and of course Randall McDaniel, their number one.
Anderson, and he proves he's one of two Andersons who can run tonight. To the 47-yard line, Douglas and Richardson converge on the tackle.
Vikings don't have any one back that has put up a lot of yardage this season, but they have 3 or 4 of them that are in the 200 and 300-yard range, and they spread it around. They rotate their backs in and out, and it's only been in the past couple of weeks, and specifically against New Orleans 2 weeks ago, that the running game has come around.
Well, we touched on it early. I think the key figure would be their backs are averaging 3.6 yards a rush. I said before, the league average is 4, so it's been a very subpar rushing season for Minnesota. 48-yard line. Wilson gets sacked. Rivera gets him back at the 41. Ron Rivera in his 5th season out of the University of California.
Got the quickness, and we saw the speed earlier when he ran down Leo Lewis on a punt return to save a Viking punt return touchdown. Oh, but if you look at Rivera, Dan, you think of all the ones who were not in there from a year ago.
Wilber Marshall, Otis Wilson. I mean, you think about what this Bear defense has done. Otis Wilson watching this game from over on the Bear sidelines, but there's Otis. Boy, we saw him go down at that preseason game in Dallas.
2nd and 17, and again the pressure is on. Wilson still looking to find somebody open and then slings it away, intended for Jordan. I tell you something about the Bears. And I know we've been waxing eloquent about them, but here's a team. They're playing in a game that means nothing. Diddly squat. It doesn't mean a thing to Chicago this game tonight, and here they are down 21-0. They could just fold a tent and go home and wait for the playoffs. Back in the game.
I'll tell you what it means to them, though, and that's simply this, that they are not on the top of the hill in the NFC Central all alone anymore. The Minnesota Vikings are fighting to at least cohabitate. And with the win they had earlier this year, how convincing it was, I think the Bears are fighting for continued dominance, continued respect.
Wilson throws low and incomplete, 4th down. But still, a lot of teams in this circumstance were just folded. Down 21-0 with nothing at stake. But that's not the Chicago manner.
Last 3 plays, pressure on Wade Wilson. They were not getting it in the first half, and all of a sudden they've turned it loose, and they're doing different stunts along the line of scrimmage. It has been effective. Wilson's been able to get away from it, but he's not been able to get the significant completion.
Update that stat to 37 touchdowns without allowing a touchdown.
Scribner's kick is a short one that goes out of bounds at the 24-yard line. So the Bears take over. They're down by 4 with a ton of time remaining. 6:40 to go. 3rd quarter in Minneapolis.
None of the Rams have gone to bed.
He joined us early and went away and came back. The Chicago Bears have gotten back into the game. Very much so. 21-17. And a Merry Christmas to you all as well.
From the dog pounds to Santa Claus, our guys are willing to make any sacrifice.
Yep. Tomczak from the 24 and open to make the catch is Sanders up at the 48-yard line. 1st down.
Well, I think that we are seeing what has warranted Mike Ditka's confidence in the way Mike Tomczak has rebounded from what could only be classified as a pretty shaky start.
Of course, he was 15-2 as a starter coming into tonight. And we have to keep in mind that he was out for a couple of weeks with a sore shoulder, and he did have a tough first half, and all of a sudden here in the second half he's exploded, gets it into Sanders. He gives Sanders a little credit too. He knew he was going to get popped.
And who else gets credit is the Bear offensive line. The Viking pass rush has evaporated.
Sanders is split to the right, and Tomczak goes to the air under pressure, and he was in the grasp and control.
I knew it.
According to Ben Drive, Keith Millard gets the sack.
Why is it that every time I say something, a good look at Keith Millard right in the middle. Boy, look at the jump he gets on the ball. Working against Kurt Becker, the left guard, and that's a good call. That's in the grasp.
And it'd be a great effort in the old days, wouldn't it, by Tomczak? In the grasp, all right, but he does get the ball out there.
And this guy who spent a day in the hospital with the flu, dehydrated, doesn't seem to have affected Keith Millard here tonight.
Second and 15 from the 43-yard line. Quick toss to Sanders. Studwell brings him down at about the original line of scrimmage. It'll be 3rd and 10. And there's a marker. Delay.
No play.
No play. No play. This season, keep in mind, the Vikings all year in the 15 games had allowed only one 80-yard touchdown drive, and here in the second half, the Bears have 2. Going against the #1 defense in the league.
That is one of the problems with the way an officiating crew keeps track of whether or not there's been delay of game, because the official farthest from the line of scrimmage is responsible for blowing the whistle. And if it's down to within a second, say, of when the ball is snapped, no one at the line of scrimmage hears the whistle blowing and that there's no play. There was an entire play, 22 people hitting each other, that never happened.
2nd and 20. Sanders takes it out to the 45. And so it'll be 3rd and 13 coming up. Reggie Rutland makes the tackle. We have 4.5 minutes to play in the 3rd quarter. Minnesota leading by 4. There it is. We mentioned before some speculation. Would they bench Anderson, put Sanders in there? He's 2nd in the league among running backs with more than 75 carries. #1 would be Alonzo Highsmith.
Well, when you watch what Neil Anderson is capable of doing as in that touchdown run, guy's got to fumble an awful lot, Frank, before I put him on the bench.
And Eric Dickerson, you go up a little bit for the extraordinary talent.
3rd and 13 with 4 wide receivers. Musker stays in the block, and the pass is a little high for Gentry. 4th down.
The 2 adversaries. Colorful coach Jerry Burns waited so long into his 59th year before he became a head coach, and has had remarkable success in those 3 years.
Brian Wagner's first kick of the second half. Leo Lewis set to receive. He had a big run back in the first half. Lewis lets it bounce, and it bounces into the end zone for the touchback, and it'll be taken at the 20-yard line. Tonight on Nightline, the transition of power. How picking his people and setting his priorities may be the most important decisions a president-elect will make. That's the subject matter on Nightline, which follows your late local news. And again on the West Coast, coming up next, Brian Boitano's canvas of ice.
One of ours made it to the upper echelon. Jack Kemp. Give him a little congratulations. And the Buffalo Bills quarterback.
Now a member of the cabinet.
He had his eye on the whole thing, didn't he?
Yep.
Still does. From the 20. Through the hands of Jim Morrissey, the linebacker.
Well, I know that you guys feel that quarterbacks are like destined to be in the cabinet and things like that, but
only Michigan quarterbacks.
Don't forget that an offensive lineman was president.
That's true.
Steve McMichael gets the penalty.
Cyril Ford.
All Big Ten centers, University of Michigan.
Got the knee to go with it.
He sure does. Here's the loop to the inside. Steve McMichael comes all the way across. And, boy, look at Darrell Harris, our running back, get right in there and put his head right in the chest of McMichael. That's not often you'll see a running back step up in there and take on a defensive tackle with that kind of verve and vigor.
From the 25 on first down, Hassan Jones to the 46-yard line. Stopped by Duerson.
Pretty move. Hassan Jones puts on Richardson to tack on about 5 more yards. These two wide receivers, Jones and Carter, they don't have great speed, but they have tremendous quickness. And if you're not watching, they can blow by you so quickly and get deep on you.
If I'm the Chicago Bears right now, I have to be saying, where's Anthony Carter? This guy's been quiet for a while. There's no way he stays quiet for an entire ball game.
They've tried one to him all night.
Two top defenses in the league meeting head-to-head, and we have 38 points on the board. And Wilson going for Jones. Picked off. Bestie Jackson at the 10-yard line.
That's Jackson's 8th interception on a good year. Both wides going deep. And Wade Wilson tried to get it up to Jones.
Well, that's
great
just
coverage.
A classic mistake by Wade Wilson. When your receiver is running that fly pattern, you have to throw the football over the top to the outside. If you make a mistake in throwing the football, it should be that you throw it too far to the outside, never short back to the inside of the field, because look how easy an interception it is for the cornerback. He's on the inside. If you throw the ball short into the inside, it's an interception every time.
Almost like the defender's running the pattern.
If you make your mistake, make it long and away.
First down, Chicago from the 10. 2:43 to go in the period. The up back, the fullback, is Brad Muster to the 14-yard line. I mentioned the two top defenses, 38 points. Interesting to note, we were talking about some of the things that have happened this season. Scoring down considerably this year. Last year, an average of about 43.5 points a game were scored. And this season, 40.5, and that's a significant drop. It tells me, among other things, it tells me one thing. For those who bet the under exclusively this season, they are all living in Beverly Hills mansions.
The biggest drop since 77, and the next year they changed the rules about offensive line blocking. Changed the game dramatically.
2nd and 6. And Sanders is tackled at about the 17-yard line by Keith Millard, and that's going to make it 3rd down and roughly 4.
The problem with that, Al, is if they doubled up tonight, they're in trouble.
Yeah, right.
Here's Keith Millard right here. Nice circle, huh? Let's watch his move. See what happens. Look at his anticipation. Look how quickly he gets off the football, and Becker really never gets a good stamp on him. Millard able to work to the inside and then get back to the outside laterally and make the play.
Doubled up tonight. You're back from Beverly Hills to Ensenada. 3rd down and 4 at the 17-yard line. And dropping it was Anderson. Wide open.
Big yardage for Anderson if he comes down with that. Tomczak said my fault, but it's still a ball that could have been caught for major yardage. Well, something wasn't exactly like Ditka wanted it. He jumps all over Greg Landry, and there it is. One that could have been caught, but again, Tomczak pointed himself, taking full blame.
Yeah, that would have been one whale of a catch. I think that's Tomczak's fault all the way. He just overthrows that baby. That would have been a Herculean effort by Anderson to come down with that.
They're running out of time here. They snap it with 1 second on the clock. And Wagner's kick, fielded by Lewis at the 34. And he takes it out to the 44. You try when you're going to punt in this situation to take as much time as you can off, but they almost ran out of time.
Do you know when you can tell the two good football teams are playing? Have you noticed how we've had a lot of good-looking punt returns and kick returns tonight without yellow flags? That's a sign of two well-coached, well-disciplined football teams that know how to play smart football. I think we've had 1 or 2 penalties in the kicking game tonight, but by and large, it's been well played. And really, only good football teams are able to do that as we see Tommy Kramer come into the ballgame.
Well, here's Kramer back in the game, or in the game, back as a Minnesota quarterback, is the point I'm making after Wade Wilson has guided them over the last half season. And it's knocked down. Wilson appears to be fine. You know, the funny thing is, I asked Jerry Burns last night, I said, outside of an injury, can you foresee any circumstance where Kramer would come in? And he said, yeah. I said, if I don't feel that things are going well for us, I might make the move. And indeed he has.
It's kind of a strange move when you consider, even though we had a frozen field last week against Green Bay, the Vikings were unable to move the ball well against them. They did not make a change, and here they are in a game that they really need if they're going to stay home for a first playoff game. They change quarterbacks.
2nd and 10 from the 45-yard line. Kramer escapes and then throws it off the fingertips of Jordan. Wobbly pass leading him and incomplete.
And we've got a Chicago Bear who is hurt. Back at the 30-yard line, Steve McMichael was rolling around as if he was in a great deal of pain. And he's going to jump at the quarterback, and I think when he comes down, he's going to land very awkwardly on his right leg. Steve McMichael gets in and puts the pressure on Tommy Kramer, and he's up and walking off. Here's McMichael right here. Watch him loop around, and when he jumps up in the air, watch him come down on his right leg. There he goes up. Ooh, right there. It's his right ankle. Did you see his right ankle and right knee flex? Whoa. Boy, he rolled all the way over on his ankle when he came down.
Big man, 270 pounds coming down, and you saw it buckle and twist. He's in pain.
3rd and 10. Minnesota from the shotgun from the 45-yard line. Duerson blitzes and knocks the ball in the air, incomplete. Nobody picked up Duerson.
And
boy, you can smell that.
Tommy Kramer should have been flagged. Did you see him grab Duerson? Now there's a situation where Kramer got away with one there, because Duerson has a right to get that football after he bats it, and Kramer grabbed him and stopped him from making a good run at the ball. The Viking offensive line just totally disregards him. And watch Tommy here. Hey, that's a penalty. That should have been called. Dave, you're right.
Bucky Scribner. His kick fielded at the 15-yard line by McKinnon, and he's dropped right away at the 18-yard line. Tackle is made by Ray Berry, and we have 35 seconds to play in the 3rd quarter. The Metrodome, Minnesota. Well, I tell you, every time I come in here, I think of the '87 World Series.
I bet you do.
A complete din from start to finish. And all of of course, that was the series when all of the games were won by the home team. All 4 here by the Twins and all 3 in St. Louis by the Cardinals.
A lot of memories from that series now.
From the 19-yard line, 1st and 10. Chicago. Brad Muster. Lost the ball, and it goes out of bounds, and what a break for Chicago, because there was no Bear near it. Brad Edwards couldn't stop it before it left the playing field.
About an 8-yard break. They're going to mark it. does appear back at the 25-yard line. Now they're standing both places. It was a fumble, and the ball did go forward. Now there's debate. Here comes the rookie from Stanford, carrying it loose. And knocked out of his hand. Scott Studwell coming in from behind, just knocked it away from Mustard.
They bring it back to the spot, right to the spot of the fumble. Yeah, that's a good rule in a way. I mean, why should a team, because of an error like that, benefit an extra 8 or 10 yards? Second down and 4 at the 25. Could be the final play of the third quarter as Tom Zach goes to the air, completes the pass. McKinnon goes out of bounds up at the 45-yard line, and so the Bears in the fourth quarter will start near midfield as the team change ends, and we've got a ball game. 21-17 Minnesota after 3. Back after this message about an upcoming show on ABC, and a word from your local station. We're all back.
Now what?
Well, the final quarter of the regular season coming up.
And the Bears, Al, you're right, give them credit. They have fought their way back into this ball game, and they have played better than some people might have reason to think they would have played when you consider what's at stake for them. Absolutely nothing in terms of where they are in the playoffs, who they play.
But it speaks volumes about the heart of this team as Tom Zach goes deep, intended for McKinnon, and he's covered on the play by a man who'll be going to the Pro Bowl, Carl Lee.
Tell you a lot about Ditka's confidence. We mentioned it. He stayed all the way with Tom Zach, who struggled throughout the entire first half. Tom Zach came out a different person. Could be he just got back into the feel of it after missing a couple of weeks with the damaged shoulder. But there's also quite a statement by Mike Ditka that we're going to stay with Tom Zach, and he might well stay with Tom Zach right into the playoffs, no matter the condition of McMahon's knee.
There's a bet you could have won early in this ball game if you would have said the Bears at the end of 3 quarters would have more passing yards than the Vikings. 203 to 143.
Second and 10 from the 45, and it's Brad Muster making the catch.
Muster ought to think about putting the ball away, Al.
Yep, first round draft pick out of Stanford. Yeah, Stanford man should definitely put it away. And so Muster picks up enough for a first as he gets it to the 40-yard line of Minnesota. 14-46. He was one of 2 first-round draft choices. You know, the funny thing about Chicago, here's a team at the top of the heap right now, and there's a look at the man out of Stanford. They're going to get 3 first-round draft choices in 1989. They get Washington's, they get the Raiders in the golf deal, and their own. So they're sitting very pretty right now. 40-yard line. Catch is made by Morris. He gets it to the 31. He's stopped by Reggie Rutland.
I bet they never dreamed, Al, that the Redskins draft pick would be as lucrative as it's going to be.
That's right, and the Raiders draft pick won't be a bad one either. With the Raiders finishing up with a mark of 7-9, and there they are. It's Dallas's option now. Will they go for Aikman? Will they trade? Green Bay second. And there it is, pretty much in reverse order. And there's Chicago from the Raiders, the 11th pick, from the Redskins the 12th, and yet to be determined is their own. The Galt and Marshall transactions responsible for those 2 picks. 2nd and 1, Muster again. And that's a first down. You know, the last time Chicago had 3 picks in the first round, you go back to 1965. It was during the AFL-NFL war. They picked a guy by the name of Steve DeLong, who wound up signing with San Diego. And you think they got some mileage out of their other 2 choices in that draft? A guy named Butkus and a guy named Sayers.
Pretty fair. Pretty fair.
Not bad.
The Bears have gotten a great deal of mileage out of almost all their number 1s in the last 12 or 13 years.
They got 9 rookie draft picks on the roster right now.
And that's a #1 draft choice himself, Neil Anderson, who moves ahead to the 19-yard line.
Anderson, of course, the Travelers' man of the year for the Chicago Bears, as is his counterpart with the Vikings, Darren Nelson, the Travelers' man of the year for the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, that honor for those efforts they expand off the field as well as on. And, of course, the Travelers' man of the year for the entire NFL will be announced at the Super Bowl. That project points to the positive side of this game, and there is so much of that.
2nd and 7 at the 19-yard line. Reverse. Anderson hands it to Gentry. He escapes a tackle at the 30-yard line and then gets brought down at the 19. Tackle is made by Walker Lee Ashley at the 19, so they come up about 6 yards shy of the first.
A lot of effort to get back to the line of scrimmage.
I'll tell you one thing, if the Vikings lose this game, this is going to be a real bitter loss.
Watch Mike Tomczak. He goes out of the left part of your screen. He's going to come back and block Al Bubba Baker. Gets him to the ground and gives Gentry a chance to pick up some yardage. But this superb Minnesota defense flows to the football so well. At first glance, you say there's a big play. But I don't know that there's a team in the league that flows to the football better than the Vikings. And Mike Tomczak is headed towards the Chicago sideline. He just packs up and goes. There's Floyd Peters, the defensive coordinator of the Vikings, and a man who everywhere he has been has just produced outstanding defensive efforts.
Chicago has taken a timeout here, a 3rd down and call it 7 coming up from the 19-yard line. Here he is. There's a big play coming up here. So Tomczak takes a time. You know, it's like he hurt himself coming up out of his crouch.
I think he was in pain in the huddle, and he could be honestly wanted to take a little bit of a breather. Yep. Getting back to Peters, though, he also was a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's done a great job in building this defense for the Vikings, the best in the NFL.
7 now for the Chicago Bears at the Viking 19-yard line.
About an 8.8.
Yep.
Here's where guys like Dolman and Millard always seem to make big plays.
Here's Anderson. No, this isn't on tape.
That's called a home run.
Yep.
What are your percentages on that?
I don't know that there's a defensive tackle in the game that gets off the ball quicker than Keith Millard. When we show you this one, watch his anticipation. He's at the upper right. Look how quickly he blows off the ball, penetrates. Becker doesn't even have a chance. I mean, you talk about disrupting a play. That's disrupting a play 6 or 7 yards in the backfield.
Now Kevin Butler with a 45-yard field goal attempt. Has the distance and the accuracy, and that baby would have been good from 55. So Butler pulls him to within a point at 21-20.
And again, before the game, his words were, "I've never played on a Monday night game. I am fired up." Keith, we believe you.
20 consecutive points after Minnesota had taken a 21-0 lead. And again, it's the Vikings either here against the Rams or on the road. It would amount to all week because they apparently would go to Tucson, Arizona to train in midweek and then on to Anaheim. Harris at the 2-yard line. And he brings it back out to the 32. Minnesota starting from that spot with 11 minutes to play. And we can tell you this Thursday, President Ronald Reagan and ABC's David Brinkley get together to discuss the last 8 years in the White House. And don't miss this fascinating farewell interview coming up Thursday, 10 o'clock, 9 Central and Mountain Time here on ABC.
An interesting crowd reaction when Tommy Kramer came back out to quarterback the Vikings again. I think everyone a little puzzled as to why Jerry Burns makes this move.
We are too. From the 31-yard line. Kramer, who is 0 for 3, throws, and the catch is made at the 44-yard line by Anthony Carter. First down. Good catch.
Good shot there by Tommy Kramer, who was the quarterback against the Bears when they beat the Bears earlier 31-7.
It was 21-0 at one point, 21-3 at the half, and Minnesota has never lost a game in which it has led by 21 or more points. Not since this franchise came into the league in 1961. Almost picked off and then almost caught, and in fact it was.
Oh my gosh.
Morrissey had it.
That ball touches 3 people.
Yep.
The third of whom is Jim Morrissey.
What a diving effort on the part of Morrissey to save it and also stay in bounds.
And Jordan is pointing to the screen saying, come on, guys, let's look at this on the replay.
All right, it's a sideline pattern to Anthony Carter. Now the first guy is Mike Richardson. Then Carter tips it once, twice, off his rear end. And Jim Morrissey comes in and scoops up the ball. Does he have his hands underneath the ball? Does he keep the ball off the field?
It's Carter's right hand on the way down too. Left.
Yep. And then it's going to come off.
And then right.
It
right
comes
hand.
off the right hand.
Yep.
Now let's look at Morrissey. Oh, guys, you can't have it any better than his.
Look at this shot.
Oh! Interception.
He did get it.
He kept the hand under there.
Oh, guys, you're the greatest. That is fabulous. If the replay booth wants something, that's how you give it to them.
They're looking at it right now.
That's how you give it to them.
Yep.
The thank you card will be in the mail.
Dixon Holman is the replay official.
No.
That is very conclusive evidence.
No, Kenny Wolf, Craig Janoff, our crew. This is as good as it gets, guys.
Boy, this would be the finest of all worlds if you could do this on every call, wouldn't it?
Whoa. Well, let's give
Unfortunately,
credit.
we don't.
Let's give credit to Jim Morrissey and not ourselves, I guess. Some kind of effort by Morrissey.
Oh, let's take a little.
Oh.
First down, Chicago, 46-yard line. Sanders. I said before, if Minnesota loses this game, how bitter it would be. It would be incredibly bitter because here's a team that has to think, hey, we're ahead 21-0. The Bears have nothing to gain. You know, we can think about spending Christmas at home and practicing here, and the Rams will travel. Can you imagine what practice has to be like this week, knowing you've blown a 21-0 lead if, in fact, that happens?
Yeah, well, if I'm going to turn it over to a defense, I don't feel all bad about letting these guys keep them out of the end zone. This is still the #1 ranked unit in the NFL.
2nd and 9 from the 47.
Look at Millard get off the ball.
Yep, and no flag. And that flag after the throw.
Great flag.
Millard appeared to be almost offside, as close as you could be. And then a flag goes down. So that the flag was thrown.
Offside! Number 79, Chicago grabbed the face mask.
You watch. That quick start by Millard forces Becker into holding him.
That was Becker screaming he was offside. You were picking up on the official's mic, Ben Rice mic.
Well, Millard moves before the snap. Let's see if he crosses the line of scrimmage, Joe. He more or less comes up. That's not offsides. That's just phenomenal anticipation. That is just remarkable anticipation.
You know, he's almost got to be guessing with the count to do that, Dan.
Well, you wonder if Tomczak, like a lot of young quarterbacks do, Frank, lock in on the same snap count.
They'll get stuck on a 3 or a second sound. And Millard is really in tune with this game.
Back at the 37-yard line. It is 2nd and 19. Four-man rush. Looking for Morris. Covered by Rutland. Throw is right there. So is Rutland.
Reggie Rutland is showing me something tonight.
He's the overlooked guy in that secondary, too, because 2 others are going to the Pro Bowl.
I mean, this guy was just a rookie last year. He's here in his 2nd year, a 4th-round draft choice last year from Georgia Tech, and he is all over the place tonight. That's just fabulous coverage by a cornerback. And you're right, Al. He's got Carl Lee on the other side, who has 8 interceptions. You know the majority of stuff is going to come flying at Reggie Rutland.
And when you get the kind of pass rush you get from the Millards and the Dolmans and the #1 defense in the league, you get a lot of confidence as a cornerback. You play those guys very close because you know that quarterback's not going to have a great deal of time to get rid of it.
3rd and 19. And Tomczak overthrows Morris, so it's 4th and 19. And in comes Wagner in the punting unit.
Well, Floyd Peters' guys stiffened up when they had to, holding on to a 1-point lead, and the Bears up at midfield get zilch. You don't, I think a lot of people question the intensity of these two teams tonight going into this game. I don't know what more we can ask for.
Look at this. You saw Tomczak coming off the field, and there's some miscommunication, obviously, on what was supposed to have been run on that play, with a tight end Boso and Landry also involved.
Gray-haired man who was taking the heat was Greg Landry, who calls the plays.
Tremendous punt by Wagner. Lewis fields it at the 6-yard line and is brought down at the 15 by Glenn Kozlowski. Minnesota starts at the 15. 9:05 to play in the 4th. 21-20 Vikings.
A moment ago, there was quite a confrontation between Mike Tomczak, his tight end Cap Bozo, and let's go back. This happened a moment ago, and they were right face-to-face jarring it, and Bozo giving Tomczak a few words. Now Landry stepped in to try and quiet things down, and here's Ditka, who, the new Ditka, very calmly observing, and it really got heated. Now watch Bozo turn on Landry. The Bears, they're a lot of fun.
Only one guy can be in charge here, and it's got to be the guy wearing the 1 and the 8. The quarterback has to be in charge of that.
Meanwhile, after a 57-yard Wagner kick, Minnesota from the 16, and Anderson picks up 3 hard yards, stopped by Jim Morrissey. Under 9 minutes to play.
As the Chicago Bears are football's answer to the Oakland A's back in the early 70s.
Just thinking the same thing.
Or as the world turns.
Everything, you know, the great thing about them is everything is out in the open. So many teams spend so much time and energy trying to keep things hidden and keep the public away. Not these guys. Everything is right out there.
Are they not to be confused with the Raiders? Is that what you're trying to say?
Or many teams. I agree. It's fun. Very refreshing.
2nd and 7 from the 19. Kramer. In and out of the hands of Steve Jordan. Coverage on the play by Duerson.
Pro Bowl coverage by Duerson.
Pro Bowler in every way. 3 times now in a row he's been over there. Actually took the job of Todd Bell when Todd Bell held out back in 1985. Pro Bowler ever since. He's the Travelers Man of the Year for all of last year. Quality individual, both on and off the field.
Singletary, the heart of a defense, trying to get the ball back for Chicago. Minnesota 3rd and 7. Kramer is 1 for 6 for 13 yards. And he airs it out and out of bounds. And the crowd now comes down on Kramer. Funny, a little controversy last week. A lot of people here thought that Kramer should have come in Green Bay. Wilson having an off day, and now the boos cascade down upon the ears of Tommy Kramer.
I honestly would be curious as to why they made the change, though. Wade Wilson seemed to be on top of it. He's playing against a very tough defense, as we're watching Tommy Kramer show us that it's not a tough thing to do to move this ball against the Bears when they get things in gear. Wilson wasn't doing that poorly.
Lucky Scribner to kick. McKinnon makes the fair catch at the 38-yard line. 8:02 remaining.
If the Vikings, by some chance, lose this ball game tonight, and if they don't score any more than the 21 points that are on the board, and if Tommy Kramer quarterbacks them the rest of the way, clearly the biggest story of this football game is why does Jerry Burns make the substitution? I mean,
and what do you do next week?
This game has tremendous meaning to the Vikings.
Well, there's a real odd twist to this game as well, as Tomczak takes over at the 38. Muster. You know, the funny thing is we spent the first half of the game talking about Chicago and how they're going to get which quarterback ready for their playoff game. And the game is going to come to a conclusion with Chicago's answer apparently settled, and Minnesota's up in the air for some reason.
Well, I don't, maybe Tommy Kramer is going to throw 3 touchdown passes here in the last 7.5 minutes of this ball game. He certainly hasn't given any indication of that, and this certainly isn't to demean Tommy Kramer and his ability to play quarterback. I mean, this guy's been tremendous for a long time, but Wade Wilson is the quarterback of this team.
I'm not suggesting he's going to make the change to Kramer, but still, how do you figure what he's done tonight? 2nd down and 6 from the 42-yard line.
I can't.
Anderson to the 45-yard line.
Kramer was the starter against the Bears in their 31-7 win, and he had 3 touchdown passes actually in that game for 260 yards, and maybe they were thinking back to that. But there will be a lot of questions asked about it. No matter what happens, if Kramer does throw the 3 touchdown passes, I mean, why do it?
Kent Herbeck of the Minnesota Twins. There he is. Great first baseman. Yep, there it is. The World Championship ring from '87.
That was well received in St. Louis.
3rd and 3 from the 45. Great catch. Muster, fingertip. First down at the 27.
That was a great catch. You don't expect a fullback to have hands like that.
Except this one. He was a great receiver at Stanford. And Tomczak actually put this ball just about where he had to put it to get the completion. Good effort by Muster, but Tomczak was making sure also that it was not going to be picked off because Muster had pretty good coverage.
Again, the protection by the Bear offensive line, with the exception of one time here in the second half where Millard has broken through to get a sack, that in the grasp, they played very, very well.
1st and 10. Anderson takes it to the 22-yard line.
Look at him squeeze that football.
He's approaching 100 yards tonight as you look at the clock. 5.5 minutes to play. The Vikings, with Anderson now at 93 yards, have not allowed an opposing runner to gain 100 yards in a game since 1986. And that's extraordinary because they're the only team in the league this year not to have allowed such a game by an opponent. And it goes all the way back over 2 years. Curtis Dickey playing with Cleveland in '86, the last to do it. 2nd and 5.
Safety blitz.
22 and a draw, which is a nice play to run with a safety blitz as Muster takes it to the 16-yard line.
Key thing here also is the Bears only down by 1, well within Kevin Butler's field goal range.
And then also, it's a good point, Frank, because you go back to the end of the first half and then the bizarre Ditka call on the field goal down 21-0. And that could very well be the difference in the game at the end. They have a first down at the 16.
There he is. He won it last week after a great effort on the part of Al Harris to block a conversion against Detroit.
Muster to the 6, and that's very close to a first down. Stopped by Brad Edwards, and it might be even close enough for a measurement. It's that close. 4 minutes to play.
I'll tell you, with the offensive line beat up as it is with the Bears, you've really got to give them a great deal of credit because the Vikings, #1 defense in the NFL, but they are also 2nd in the league only to the Bears in defending against the rush. And the Bears offensive line has really been blowing them out here in the second half.
Almost, just about 6 inches short.
2nd and inches. Tomczak, while they were measuring, was over with Ditka and Landry.
Watch this. They are just beating the Vikings off the line of scrimmage late in the game, and I'll tell you again, it's a game that means absolutely nothing as far as what's going to happen to the Bears in the playoffs.
Well, it starts in the middle. Did you see Jay Hilgenberg? He took Stafford Mays about 3 or 4 yards off the line of scrimmage and put him on the ground. You got a Pro Bowler like that in the middle, it's a lot easier to run the ball.
2nd and inches.
Oh, and this is called hang on to it.
Anderson losing yardage back to the 8. Stopped by Edwards. 3:25 to play. At the 8-yard line, it's going to be 3rd down and 2.
Interesting call. It would be a good time for a play action pass. Whether or not we'll see that with a field goal, a good field goal enabling the Bears to take the lead, but it's a great time to call it.
Gentry split left, McKinnon to the right. 3rd and a short 3. And Tomczak has it intercepted by Walker Lee Ashley. And Walker Lee Ashley goes all the way.
Great effort by Joey Browner to get out in front and throw a key block.
Oh, and now the Vikings get over there and start taunting Mike Tomczak.
Well, let's go back to when he was taunting Studwell earlier in the game.
I think David Howard goes over there and starts jawing at Tomczak. It's a cliche of cliches to say that these two teams don't like each other, so I won't say it. They hate each other.
And they may see each other again, too.
I think Browner got the block on Tomczak. Walker Lee Ashley breaks it open.
Tomczak must have never have seen Ashley. Hit him right in the numbers. And again, you have to even question the call.
Well, Tomczak was under pressure with the blitz, and he learns a valuable lesson. Every game played at his age is a lesson. When you're in scoring territory, when the blitz is on, it's not the worst thing in the world to just throw it in the end zone over somebody's head. Never force the ball at that end of the field.
And not only picked off, but run back 94 yards. And that was a very big extra point because it makes the margin 8. 2:37. Another look now.
Now look at his pass protection fall apart. Never gets a chance to set himself, trying to force it inside. And
even had he taken the sack at that point, it's a chip shot for the field goal to put you ahead. And I agree. You learn a lesson. He is a tough kid. He tried to get something in there he couldn't do, and he paid the price for it, and they're packing in Los Angeles.
Give Joey Browner, though, the assist on this touchdown return by Walker Lee Ashley, because Mike Tomczak in perfect position to run Ashley out of bounds, but Joey Browner stays with Tomczak and puts him on the ground. Stafford Mays forces Tomczak onto his back. Here comes Browner from the right. Superb effort. And these Viking linebackers, they have some athletic ability, don't they? Jesse Solomon did it 2 weeks ago. Now it's Walker Lee Ashley's turn.
Into the record book. Walker Lee Ashley.
That's the longest return in Viking history. 94 yards. Here's a man who has spent 5 years in the league, and he missed a full season because of Achilles surgery in 1985. 5 years in the league. That's his first ever interception. And that baby is going to stay forever on videotape for him. And might be played a couple of times on his VCR.
Well, this is where Mike Tomczak grows up. A horrible thing has happened to him, but now it's time to go right back in there. Here's Greg Landry saying, what's done is done, what's gone is gone. They have to play next week. We're sitting at home. 2:37 left. Johnny Rowland getting in there as well. Now we're going to really see something about Mike Tomczak.
A couple of old pros, Greg Landry, Johnny Rowland, they've been there. They've seen every side of the coin of pro football. They know this youngster hasn't. You got to keep him up. He obviously is a choice of Ditka to be the Bears playoff quarterback.
Hey, there's not a quarterback in this league that hasn't had a whole lot of passes intercepted and run back for touchdowns. How you do on the next drive, how you do on the subsequent drive is what separates the men from the boys. And they're pretty pleased up here, aren't they? Whoa, this place is coming apart.
28-20. At the 6, Sanders comes back the other way a run back all the way out to the 45-yard line. Run out of bounds by Browner, and here's the taunting of Tomczak.
I think it's David Howard, number 51, who's going to come over. Now there's one of the Vikings going to give a helping hand. Howard comes in from the right, shoves his teammate out of the way. In fact, that was Joey Browner in a class move, going to help him up. And then David Howard, in a rather tasteless move, comes in and puts a little salt in the open wound.
Give him a helping foot.
That's got to go back to an earlier taunt on the part of Tomczak to Scott Studwell that we also had.
.224.
This one's not over.
No. Left in this game. Although it may be a little difficult here for the Bears to do much audibly.
Chicago has 2 timeouts left. We have 2:24 to play, and they're down by 8.
4 wide receivers in. Good time to blitz.
Here it comes. Oh, and he didn't get out of bounds.
Nope. Stays in. They're going to get a free timeout at the 2-minute warning as the clock ticks down to 2:08. And there it is, the first time in more than 2 years that a back has run for over 100 yards against this Minnesota defense.
Oh, that hurt the Bears, him not being able to get out of bounds. That cost Chicago about 17, 18 seconds or so.
Yep. 2-minute warning with 2 timeouts remaining. Been a wild one at the Metrodome. 28-20, Minnesota. And at the Minnesota 25-yard line. And 2 timeouts. Down by 8. Everybody into the pattern. 5 receivers. And he chooses Davis. That's Wendell Davis, the LSU rookie, and he gets out of bounds to stop the clock with 1:55 at the 20-yard line. Ball just inside the 20. 2nd down and 5.
Mike Tomczak's father, Ron, is celebrating his 52nd birthday tonight back in Chicago. I would have to think that he's pretty proud of his son tonight. The way he rebounded from that shaky first quarter. And something tells me Dick has seen nothing to dissuade him from starting him in the playoffs.
I don't imagine. Blitz. He gets rid of it. And he hits his receiver at the 1-yard line, Dennis Gentry, to set up a 1st and goal. Well, with 1:46, and a timeout is called by Chicago. Timeout.
I'll tell you, another great effort by Tomczak. Safety blitz was on. He was off balance, fired that shot in there. Coming was Carl Lee, and also coming in on it was Henderson. He got away, stepped away from Lee, and was able to get it off. Super effort. And I agree. Even with the interception, I don't think Ditka's will back away from the commitment to go with Tomczak in the playoffs. Lee on the left side. And just as he gets popped from Henderson on the right, he gets the ball to Gentry, and Gentry makes a clutch catch inside the 2.
And it's a little quieter in here than it was just 30, 40 seconds ago, as the Bears are 1 yard and an onside kick away from making this extremely interesting.
I don't think you fool around either. I think you put the ball up again. Little play action. Give your quarterback a little roll.
They send 1 man wide. That's Gentry to the left. And Tomczak on a sneak, but gets nowhere.
Boy, with a long yard. I mean, they weren't 3 or 4 inches from the goal line. They were over a yard out.
Yep. And Ditka says, "Come on, go, let's go." Clock is rolling. They only have 1 timeout.
Bizarre call.
16 seconds that was used, and more now.
2nd and goal. And a flag is thrown as the catch is made by Gentry.
Well, we have seen some catches tonight. That's going to be a Chicago touchdown.
Should be. Rutland is the defensive back. No signal yet from the officials, and the conference going on amongst 4 of them at the moment. Gentry came down with it.
Gentry's only 5'8".
Defensive pass interference. but they decline the penalty. It's a touchdown.
Yeah, I would think they'd decline the penalty.
All right, let's watch the coverage. Looks like good coverage by Rutland. Well, you can see he grabbed him a little bit with the left arm, but boy, I mean, give Gentry credit. That's a Chicago touchdown all the way. And I'm glad for Rutland's sake that he went ahead and caught it, because that would have been a shaky interference penalty, I think. That's very marginal, but what a catch by Gentry.
He's 5'8". Look how high he went for that ball.
And what about Tomczak, too? There's a flag down. Butler's kick was good. 1:15 to play, and Ben Dreith tells us
we may do this again here.
Number 90 hooked the guy around the neck. That's a 10-yard penalty, and they got to kick it over.
Whoa. Say it again with conviction, Ben.
Well, it really is no big deal anyway.
Yep. Al Harris. Yeah, this is a meaningless extra point.
Because a field goal's needed anyway.
Yep. But you're not supposed to be hooking those guys.
2 minutes for hooking, huh?
Al Harris was the guy flagged. He's on the right wing, and he hooks him right. Here's Harris right here. Watch the right hand come out and get the hook. There's an old-fashioned horse collar. Now this makes it a little tougher.
Yep. But meaningless. Really. Yep. Kick is good. Makes the score 28-27.
And we will see the onside kick. All the sure-handed folks in the Bears have lined up and huddled in front of their bench, their kickoff unit, talking it over. They're back there even looking at the diagram of it. Butler's good at this. He can make that ball die after it travels the required 10 yards very easily.
And here it is, recovered by the receiving team this year 28 times, by the kickers 8 times. That's about 3 out of 4, 78%.
I would have thought it would have been higher in favor of the receivers. You don't see an onside kick recovered very often by the kicking team.
If Minnesota recovers this kick, they will effectively be able to run out the clock, because Chicago can only stop it once.
And again, the Bears have all of their sure-handed types up there, but the Vikings counter with theirs. They're bringing out the various receivers. Joey Browner is up close. Butler being very good at this.
There aren't many guards and tackles on the receiving team for the Vikings here. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's it. They're all with the sticky finger types.
Hope all the Rams have Nielsen books.
Hanging around and waiting for Brian Boitano, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
It goes 10 yards, and Jordan is there to recover for Minnesota. The sure-handed tight end, Steve Jordan. After the kick, it traveled 14 yards, and so Chicago can stop it only once, and then Minnesota can run the clock out.
And if the Vikings hold on to the ball, in the old days, the Rams would have had to bring ear muffs. Instead, trade them in for some ear plugs.
Walker Lee Ashley. 5 years in the league, 1 interception. Humongous. Now Chicago can take its final timeout. Clock is down to 1:12, and the Vikings only have to kneel down twice more, and they'll be home all week. Home for the holidays.
Well, Mike Tomczak is the quarterback of the future for the Bears for the immediate playoff future, and one must assume that Wade Wilson is still the quarterback of the future for the Minnesota Vikings, although still the play of the game, the coaching strategy of the game, has to be Jerry Burns' decision to pull Wade out of the ball game and go with Tommy Kramer. Kramer ineffective, and Jerry Burns doing what he wants to do. Only he knows what he was trying to accomplish.
And one more play, and that'll do it. The Rams and the Vikings did not play this year. Last year they met in Anaheim, And the Vikings won the game 21-16. Hassan Jones on a pass from Wilson in the final minute. Rams have not played here in Minnesota in 10 years. So it'll be their first game at the Metrodome. That's what it will be. Houston and Cleveland in the rematch of yesterday's encounter at the lakefront on Saturday, and then Monday. Christmas is Sunday, so they'll wait till Monday to play the wild card game here. Rams at Minnesota. Rams have played in Minnesota 3 times in playoff games, and Minnesota has won all 3 going back through the years, and in each case went on to the Super Bowl.
Well, if by chance they do meet again in the playoffs, as we said earlier, it would have to be in the NFC Championship game, and if that's the case, our friends at CBS are going to have a whale of a ballgame.
They will. The quick wave by Mike Ditka to Jerry Burns, his counterpart. And for the Vikings, they stay home, and for the Bears, not a bad comeback.
You still have friends at CBS?
I still have friends at CBS.
I still have friends at CBS.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
They're rich over there, baby.
Well, there's your final score.
They do spread it around, don't they?
28-27 as the Vikings win it. And the playoff picture completely set now.
Gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for another fine year.
And thank you, sir.
And
I appreciate
thank
it.
you both.
It's
and all of the crew that you're going to see very shortly.
Been a slice of heaven.
I guess we reconvene in New Orleans, huh? We're going to be down there for the Sugar Bowl, yeah.
We'll see you down there.
The night of January 2nd, Florida State and Auburn, as we delve into college football.
Well, bowl season is upon us, and we can tell you that on Christmas Day, ABC Sports will present a full day of college football for you. It will all begin with the Kelly Tire Blue-Gray All-Star Football Classic, followed by the Eagle Aloha Bowl. Washington State taking on the Houston Cougars. The action begins live 12 Eastern Christmas Day here on ABC Sports. Tonight on Nightline, the transition of power. How picking his people and setting his priorities may be the most important decisions a president-elect will make. And a reminder that coming up next for those of you on the West Coast, where it's still prime time, an ABC Sports Special. Brian Boitano's Canvas of Ice. And we want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, the happiest of holidays, and we bid you adieu with our thanks to the ladies and gentlemen who have made it possible for us to present Monday Night Football for you all season long.